Party's on.
Good morning. It's 9 o'clock. We'll call to order the October 18th regular meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Cox, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Presentations, item 1.1. Receive an update from U.S. Forest Service representatives regarding matters of interest in Trinity County. No fiscal impact.
Well, good morning, supervisors. And I'm happy to say I'm enjoying this brisk fall morning. So it's nice to see the change in the weather. I wanted to start off by giving you an update on some fires. We did have a couple of fires since the last time I saw you, 2 on the Trinity River Management Unit and another on the South Fork Management Unit. These fires were also caught while they were small in initial attack activities. And I want to thank Trinity County Sheriff's Department for working with our LEO and our fire prevention staff to work through the fire investigation on the 2 on the Trinity River Management Unit. I really appreciate the cooperation and collaboration between the county and the Forest Service. Have some updates for you for recreation. We've been very active upgrading our facilities and recreation across Trinity County, both from rehabbing them from the fires and just making some improvements. So we've gotten, bear with me, 2 new bathrooms put in Scott Flat and Rat Trap Trailhead. We've gotten the Great American Outdoors Act money is being used to replace fire rings, tables, and food lockers at Deer Lake Springs Campground. We've added 4 permanent employees in recreation, 1 in developed rec and 3 for trails. We're working on a proposal to replace 22 toilets. So pretty much all of the ones on the west side here of the forest and get all of those upgraded through the Great American Outdoors Act. Trails, we've developed a comprehensive plan to address the trails that have all been impacted from the fires over the last couple of years, including the August River, Red Salmon, Monument, and McFarland fires. That plan will bring another pack string into Weaverville and allow us to address the wide scale impacts of these fires. So it's a very robust and comprehensive plan. We also have replaced or working to replace the livestock panels at Stewart Gap Trailhead and at Rat Trap Trailhead, sorry. Recreation use in general is up, and our interactions between our staff and the public has significantly increased. In timber, harvest activities are wrapping up on the Scott Flat Forest Glen timber sales. Operations are expected to begin, the last of the operations are expected to begin around the rec residences in Forest Glen. And I should pause for a minute and tell you, I figured it out finally, and I sent you this update electronically, Board of Supervisors. You all have it in your inbox, so you won't have to take robust notes as I fire off stats for you. Sorry, I should have done that a long time ago. So we'll be logging that piece near the rec residence in Forest Glen soon. After some delays, it is anticipated the river hazard tree project, also on the river, up north on the river fire. We're expected that hazard tree project should begin soon. Also to let you know, we had another hiring event for foresters, and the pilot project has been marked and is being cruised. It should be ready for offer in the first or second quarter of the year. For fuels, I'm happy to report on the South Fork Management Unit, 57 miles of road brushing has been accomplished by either our fire staff or cover resources that we had during the fire season. So I'm thrilled with their efforts along those lines. Prescribed fire operations will be starting up soon as conditions allow. The Trinity River Management Unit has 431 acres of broadcast burning planned and another 964 acres of pile burning to accomplish. Depending on the weather windows, we may or may not get through all those acres, but that's what's planned. The South Fork also has a bunch of a few underburns planned and a lot of pile burning. The first of the underburns on the South Fork management unit will be around the Harrison Gulch station in that general area. Implementation of fuels work will significantly ramp up in fiscal year 23 due to the influx of disaster supplemental funds. So we'll be doing some of that force account with our dozer, brush rake, as well as renting excavators. We'll also be putting more money into agreements and into contracts. For the first time, to accomplish some of this fuels work, for the first time, we actually did winter hiring to bring on a fuels crew, similar to like we ramp up to do fire hiring, going into fire season. We've ramped up and we're bringing on a fuels crew to help us get prescribed fire and other fuels treatments done during the winter. I have drafted out my public meeting schedule as promised, and I'm looking at, so the Lewiston meeting is tentative pending. I need to get with the fire chief and arrange to use the park down there, as well as the High and Palm. I need to reach out to those folks and see if we can use their facility, but the others are pretty well locked in. So November 5th, which is a Saturday at Lewiston Park. November 7th, Coffee Creek Station, 5:30 to 7. November 12th, the Hayfork District Office, which is a Saturday, 1 to 2:30. November 14th in Weaverville. November 16th in Burnt Ranch, 5:30 to 7. And November 19th out at High and Palm if those folks have a facility available. Also, to wrap up, we have a collaborative. So Supervisor Brown will be in your neck of the woods. If you'd like to get that agenda sent, my formal updates, I believe we may be mixing up a little bit and be at the first meeting in November versus the second, but I'll get with your clerk and make sure we get on the agenda appropriately.
There isn't a second meeting in November.
So,
Correct.
see, and so we'll plan on being on the first one then. It'll either be me or Rachel. One of us will be here for sure. That was what I had for you. Are there any questions? Perfect. Like I said, I apologize it took me so long to figure out I should just email you my update and then you'd have it on and wouldn't have to take notes. So you guys have a wonderful day and thank you so much for your time. And thanks again to the Sheriff's Department for helping us out with that investigation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, grants. Item 1.2, receive a presentation from Atlas Studios regarding the Trinity County Placemaking Action Plan.
Good morning, Chair, members of the supervisors and residents. Susie Cockham's Division Director, Grants and Housing. And I'd like to introduce Libby Crimmings. She's from Atlas Community Studios. She's joining us via Zoom this morning to present the placemaking plan. The placemaking plan was funded through a rural business development grant funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. County worked in collaboration with Atlas Community Studios about a year and a half ago to submit the grant, and I'm pleased to report that the plan is done and she's here to present it today. So joining us from out of state is Libby Crimmings, and there she goes. Thank you very much.
Greetings, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Libby Crimmings, and I'm coming to you live from sunny. I have had the pleasure to work with Trinity County over the last year, and today I'm here to present our final placemaking action plan. As Susie said, that we have been working on through the RBDG grant to assist rural communities with economic development planning, and expansion of rural businesses, which I should also mention is pretty exciting that Trinity County received this grant. California is a big state. You only have so much money to go around. And this plan you should be able to use to apply again for RBDG in the future for implementation of some of these pieces as well. So I've been told that I have a limited amount of time. And as my steering committee will tell you, I can talk for hours. So I will try as much as I can to be brief and succinct. I hope you had a chance to review the plan ahead of time, and I'd be happy to answer questions at the end as well. But this is going to be an extremely high level overview in the interest of time. So again, for this project, we had the chance to work with Trinity County. It is focused on 3 specific areas: housing, workforce development, and overall quality of life. The scope of work includes 3 major phases. Phase 1 was the public input, where I got to come to do a site visit. We had public visioning sessions. There was a survey. We identified emerging themes, which led into the community assessment in partnership with Broad Ripple Strategies, where we pull all of the qualitative and quantitative data together, identify some strategic opportunity areas, and then that informs the priority project areas in the final action plan. And then phase 3 is the final action plan. So each of those areas, identifying what are the priority projects. If you only have limited time, money, and resources, what are our recommendations for your best bets? And then each of those areas includes key partners, recommended programming, best practices, funding resources that are available, and inspiration. So the public input phase 1. Again, we had the site visit. We built a local steering committee, which was extremely helpful throughout this process to make sure that we were staying on track. And that included Supervisors Cox and Gogan. So thank you so much for your participation. And we had a very active and wonderful and thoughtful steering committee, and I deeply appreciate their guidance and support through this process. We had an online community survey with over 170 responses, which was wonderful. We had really great conversations as a part of our public visioning sessions in Weaverville and Hayfork in March. And then individual interviews with stakeholders, and all of this puts together to identify what are those emerging themes that we're finding. And again, I told you this is moving quickly through the phases. So all of the information, all of the raw input reports can be found in the final plan, in the appendices, and I'd be happy to share with the Board of Supervisors any additional information that would be valuable. So phase 2 is the community assessment, again, pulling all of that information together, analyzing it with what does the data say, and does it match up with public input and public perception. Some of the findings that were discovered, mostly that Trinity County is finding itself in a time of transition between old and new economies, kind of figuring out what does that future look like. You face a tremendous amount of external challenges, such as wildfires. Some of the scars that you have felt through the growing pains of cannabis. But the good news is that Trinity County clearly has a tremendous amount of wealth in assets and amenities. And all of those things can be used and leveraged to address the challenges that you face. There is a lot of opportunity for attracting people to Trinity County. In terms of the digital nomads that exist right now because of the pandemic, and people are choosing places to live. Quality of life is an extremely important piece of that. Access to broadband and housing, however, will definitely be a couple challenges when you are looking at those pieces. In addition, you have a limited amount of large employers, typically lower wage jobs, and some other factors that are limiting the capacity of Trinity County government to provide effective support and services. So some of the strategic implications, basically opportunity areas for focus, are that were recognized in the community assessment, are focusing on cannabis, housing, broadband, fire prevention, creative industries, outdoor and adventure tourism, and government capacity. And again, this was done by the community assessment was partnered with Broad Ripple Strategies, and this was their recommendations. And all of those pieces were used and informed into the final action plan. And the good news is we ended up touching on almost all of those pieces within the focus areas of the final action plan. So the first thing is a vision. So one thing that came out from many residents in the public input phase was people felt like Trinity County was possibly floating a little bit. We need a very clear direction. Where are we going? What are our priority focus areas? And how do we bring people together? So a vision statement is a great place to start. And so we recommend the following vision statement in relation to this plan, but the county could consider it as well. So we're recommending beautiful wilderness, open spaces, and an inclusive community to live, play, and grow. Clearly, Trinity County is beautiful. It is painfully beautiful. There's a lot of opportunity for growth, not just for attracting people and businesses, but also to grow the people that you already currently have. What opportunities exist, or what opportunities could exist to allow people to live their dreams in Trinity County? So the first key focus area was housing. And some of the key trends that were discovered in this focus area is you are losing your housing stock. This is not going to be news to anybody. Due to wildfires, blight, and disinvestment. All of this is made significantly worse by the fact that construction costs have become increasingly expensive through the pandemic, as well as regulated. And on top of that, insurance is an extreme challenge when you're trying to rebuild a home after a wildfire. So furthering all of these challenges is the fact that Trinity County has below average wages. You are landlocked because of the Shasta Trinity National Forest, and you're under capacity at a county level as well. So some of the housing goals we were looking at, and when you look through the placemaking action plan, the housing section is by far the biggest. We decided to spend a significant amount of time on the housing piece because it doesn't matter how wonderful a community is and how many jobs you have. If you don't have places for people to live, you're not going to be able to grow and thrive and be the vibrant place that you want to be. So some of the overall goals for the housing section are, getting your vacant and abandoned properties back into active use, increasing housing options. This is not a one size fits all. What are the different opportunities for different people in different stages of life, different price points, different styles that people are looking for? Expand available land for future developments, incentivize new developments, build local wealth. This is really important as well. It's not just about attracting outside developers and people, but how do you develop and build local wealth within your own community? Increasing fire resiliency, again, has to be a huge priority. And then a unified collaborative approach to housing challenges. So some of the strategic opportunity areas include increasing available housing supply by encouraging more ADUs. And I know this is not a groundbreaking thing for you, and this is something that you've already talked about. ADUs are a wonderful opportunity to increase your density kind of in that light touch manner. And again, that goes back to building local wealth, a really, really great opportunity for residents and average everyday people to participate in solving the housing challenge, as well as to have an additional income stream for themselves as well. Establishing a countywide land bank would be a wonderful opportunity to get some of those properties back into active use. Create a countywide revolving loan fund, so pooling resources to be able to spur development and redevelopment. Engaging with the Forest Service as a possible land acquisition through the Townsite Act might be a realistic possibility. Brownfields, as another example, the EPA has a tremendous amount of funding available for technical assistance with brownfields, and basically it's just properties that have real or perceived contamination and environmental challenges. So think old gas stations, dry cleaners, many types of commercial properties, as well as housing. So houses can also fall under the brownfields category. And an additional really important piece of that is, I know that there's a lot of properties in Trinity County that have mine tailings and or are in flood zones. And both of those things fit under brownfields for qualifications. So I know I was thinking of that little area in Lewiston where the library is, and it's right down by the river. And there was some vacant properties down there. That could be an excellent space for a brownfields assessment. And again, there are resources available, technical assistance providers available for free from EPA that could be available for Trinity County to go after some of these funds. Building resiliency through the Fireproof Housing Initiative, helping local residents become more fire resilient. But I also think there's a tremendous opportunity for Trinity County to plant the flag and say, we want to be the leader in fireproof housing innovation in the future. How do you attract entrepreneurs and people who are interested in that space to Trinity County and really kind of lead into that as a part of your identity? And then finally, creating a housing ambassadors community outreach program, because your county is so geographically large and mountains make it difficult to get around as well. Making sure that you have sort of that inner circle of people who are kind of your liaisons between communities as well as the county, to be able for people to recognize and understand that there are opportunities available to them and help kind of spread the word on some of these pieces. So under workforce development, Trinity County struggles to retain and attract top talent due to lack of education, opportunities, job diversity, housing, low wages, limited broadband access. You do have broadband, which is great. There is an access or an affordability conversation there as well as an aging population. There are some wonderful programs that exist in Trinity County, which is great news. These resources do exist. It seems from public input that many people don't know they exist. So there could be some marketing conversations included into that strategy. And the county lacks just a collective workforce development ecosystem. So some of those strategic opportunity areas within workforce development are, first of all, mapping all of your assets and resources. In the final plan, our team started to do that just to see what we could find in terms of a lot of different categories of looking at all the pieces of workforce development and starting with mapping everything out. What do you have? And not only what do you have, but where is it? And obviously most of the resources with the Smart Center, most of them are focused in Weaverville and or Hayfork. And so again, making sure that you have a lot of opportunities for education, but also are they available? Are they accessible? Do people know they exist? The second is expand specialized training and education around key industries. So this is specific for cannabis as well as tourism. And there is a tremendous amount of opportunity for growth in supporting local entrepreneurs and developing small businesses within this area, within those two areas specifically. And then the third is scaling up your existing population to meet current, future, and remote workforce needs. So within the plan, you will see we have some data that has been pulled in terms of what skill sets do Trinity County residents have? Does it meet the existing need within the region? And then does it meet the existing need nationally? So if somebody lives in Trinity County, they have great broadband access and they want to work for a tech company somewhere else, do they have the skill set to be able to apply for those jobs and still live in Trinity County? So you'll see kind of that matchup available. I should also note, recognizing limited funds and capacity, there's also a tremendous amount of money that is available from the Department of Labor to help train individuals. Those can be through higher education. So you could work with the college to develop curriculum, and funding is available to develop curriculum. There's also free curriculum that is available. So these are really great, very cost-effective opportunities. The other example that I think is really valuable here is apprenticeships. I know that there are some in Trinity County, but excuse me, getting nationally approved, recognized apprenticeships again, will unlock a significant amount of funding and opportunities. This is extremely valuable for local employers and for the community, but it's definitely going to require employers to be very engaged. And then all of this can tie really nicely to ADUs. And so if you have more ADU opportunities within the county, increasing educational opportunities, apprenticeships, internships, fellowships, things like that would be a wonderful opportunity for all those pieces to work together. I should also say too, I forgot to say this earlier, according to the UC Berkeley Center for Community Innovation, so in 2017 was when the ADUs became, the state of California passed the law for ADUs to be accessible everywhere. According to UC Berkeley Center for Community Innovation, they mapped every single permit and ADU that has been built in the state of California. And according to their research, which went all the way up to 2021, there was only one permit in all of Trinity County that was pulled for an ADU. And I don't know if it was actually built or not, but as of last year, it was not built. So again, there's a lot of research that has been done about the impact of ADUs in other communities and large cities in California, but I still think that there is a wonderful opportunity for that to really help the housing challenges that you have right now. So the final piece, I just wanted to say this as well. So one other thing that was brought up in some of the community input pieces is the challenge to attract a workforce to Trinity County. Again, with some of the other pieces you have of housing and amenities and lower wages. If somebody can go to Reading or they can go to a different county not too far away and have a similar job, have higher paying wages or better benefits or whatever, why wouldn't they? But I really want to emphasize that it's not all about the dollars. And I think there is a lot of conversation nationally happening right now, especially because of the pandemic. People are choosing quality of life over many things, including income, including status of jobs and things like that. So I think if you can't compete on a wage level, compete on what you know you have. What is the asset? And what you know you have is an incredibly beautiful place. Trinity County has so much to offer, and I would lean into that and create and lead with a culture of work-life balance. Trinity County is good for you. It's good for your mental health, your physical health, and having a culture of flexible schedules where people can enjoy all the beautiful recreational opportunities that Trinity County has and make a living. That's a selling point that many other places cannot say. Okay, so the final piece here is revitalization and overall quality of life. Residents clearly deeply love Trinity County. That was very obvious. The word beautiful was used more than any other word in all of the public input pieces. But there was sort of a feeling of frustration over some divisiveness in the past, sort of a feeling of tension. Some people expressed a feeling of being stuck. It was also shared that there is no unified identity for Trinity County. That also makes it harder when you don't have incorporated cities. And so this is kind of one big identity. And so creating that roadmap for the future is a big part of that identity piece as well. So the strategic opportunity areas within this category are building Team Trinity. So this is going to be your hype squad. This is your inner circle. This is people who are going to lead with positivity and get the word out about all the things you have. Focus on the wins. Trinity County needs to share and market your wins. You have so many wonderful things to put out to the universe. So really building that team of people to kind of help amplify that message will be very important. Expand your creative economy, arts and culture opportunities. Consider a 1% for the arts. to incrementally increase and create a culture of supporting public art opportunities for all, and creating a unified visual indicator. My recommendation is to have a campaign to create a visual indicator in the form of a flag. And I know that sounds very, whatever, but I think it's really easy to dismiss something as simple as a flag. But if you think about sports teams, think about all kinds of different people, that piece of cloth has such tremendous opportunity to build a sense of pride and belonging and camaraderie, and to really be able to pull people together and identify within a community. There's a couple of really great examples in the final plan from Nebraska, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and even my hometown did this not too long ago too. But this can be a wonderful public engagement opportunity for people of all ages and all abilities, design abilities, to be able to submit recommendations and designs on, if you were to represent Trinity County in the form of a flag, what would it look like? And then this can be a wonderful way to encourage the community to vote online. And it can be kind of a people's flag. It can be something that is a grassroots effort. It doesn't have to come from the county. It doesn't have to be an officially recognized flag, but this could be a really wonderful way to unify and to build momentum and to get people excited. The final piece here that we recommended was, I think there's a lot of opportunities for Trinity County to host AmeriCorps VISTA members. Again, added capacity, bringing people into the county. Some of these can be community development focused, especially for populations that are experiencing poverty. So again, wonderful opportunity for cost-effective increasing capacity. And in conclusion, some of the overall themes that you will find in the action plan, excuse me, are bringing people together under a unified vision, focusing your prioritization, expanding opportunities for residents, and building those ecosystems of support. I think it's really important to know that, any community you can do everything. You can't do it all at the same time. So really figuring out, where are you going? What are the focus areas you want to put your time and money and resources and energy into, and focusing on those pieces to be able to build Trinity County into the vibrant, active, wonderful community that is clearly envisioned by so many people. Economic development has changed, and it is no longer just about attracting those major employers to create jobs. Even if you do that, people still need places to live and things to do. So focusing on all these pieces, quality of life, appropriate housing, amenities, and building your workforce are all ways that you're going to be able to retain your population, attract individuals, as well as grow and attract businesses as well. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. I have really loved the opportunity to work with Trinity County. I wish I was there in person, and I hope I can come back very soon. I'm happy to take any questions. Again, otherwise, I would be happy to share any of the resources with the board at a later time. Thank you so much.
Question?
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. First off, I have a question. Dan, did you appoint the committee to this?
I don't even remember.
Council, my first question is that on the first page there, we have a Brown Act violation. If this is that we have board members and a future board member sitting on it. So what's the ramifications of that?
So this was identified recently. And you're correct. The moment that the supervisor-elect was certified that she should have been removed from the committee, my understanding is there was only one meeting after that occurred. And I had discussed with the supervisors just about disclosing that today, and anything that was discussed during that meeting, so that we could at least publicly air what happened. The ramifications are minor, but it's definitely worth disclosure, and I appreciate you bringing it up.
Okay. And so was this appointed by the chair?
I am not aware of that. I do not believe it was.
Okay. So this is kind of quasi county, but it's not county. I'm
No,
confused here. This is
it
just,
would be a Brown Act violation. It affects the county. It relates to something that is under the purview of the board. And it was fine up until that supervisor was elected. And then again, that one of the individuals should have stepped down. But again, it's a minor error, and I believe disclosure will come.
going beyond that though, since it wasn't appointed by the board, or the board wasn't notified of this as a whole. I know I'm kind of getting off in the weeds here a little bit, but
Actually, we did have conversation about this because I remember you saying, what is this? And so
Okay.
We had a conversation of discussion. We've also discussed it in terms of the general plan update, because there are portions of the work that Libby and her team did that she was then going to collaborate with Minter Harnish, that would allow us to save some money with that firm, because we wouldn't need to repeat work that was done. So there were pieces of just community identity, and Libby can speak to that probably better than I can, which pieces were going to overlap. But no, it was not appointed by the chair, but we did have the conversation.
okay. That's my kind of overall view comments that into the document. And this is just well, the first one is we talk about having a housing stock lowering in the county, but do we have any data showing that? Because I know after cannabis, we have record building permits. Or is there just an assumption made that it's lowering?
During when CAO Coons was here, we had a statement from him that the fires had taken 10 to 12% of our housing stock. So what he used to substantiate that, I do not know.
Okay. Because I would question that number, but I don't know if we don't have the data. The other one is and this is a pet peeve of mine that has come to the forefront a bunch of times recently, is that we continue to talk about our lowest annual wages. And, we brag about being the poorest county. I appreciate this document actually talks about cannabis and the 3,000 employees in it, but remember those 3,000 employees aren't part of this compensation number. So, my real rough estimates bring this, our wage level up to very comparable for a county of ours. So I just think we get in real trouble when we keep talking about our low wages when we only count a percentage of the wages that come into the county. I look at least a $20,000 bump up per person in the county for the cannabis wages. And the good news is one of the actions we've done, we have a flag. And we've had a flag for years, and we fly it someplace over the courthouse from time to time. Flies at the elementary school. So check, we've done it.
Is the current flag the seal?
No, it is not. It's with no disrespect to the people that made it years ago. It's not the most attractive flag, but it's yellow with green with a picture of Trinity County, and there's like a star on it. And
Oh yeah, okay, I've seen it.
but it is the official flag of Trinity County and has been adopted by the Board of Supervisors. And I do believe there's only like 10 flags out there, but you can still buy them from the individual who printed them.
So my vote would be to uncheck and get something a little more up to times with the people and what is going on here in the community. That's just my thinking on the flag alone.
I know. Do we have any other questions, concerns?
Yeah, the overall view of this, I think, has left a large, this is just kind of my personal feelings, is in this mission statement, when we talk about wilderness has a real meaning and not just kind of a flippant tone. And I worry that this document really leads us away from forest management to more recreation-based wilderness. And I know I'm probably reading more into it than the intent was. But the facts in this county is that we are timber-based, and there's been no greater opportunities since 1992 to receive monies from the Forest Service through the Good Neighbors, through a lot of different areas to do actual timber reduction work. We know that we have high fire danger because of the overstock. And so my analysis is that's really kind of downplayed in this. And maybe it's not meant to be, but that's just my overall vision of what I read. And with that, I'm done.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions. I would like to just say regarding the Brown Act or not, there's 100 and something pages in this document here. So I would think that we would need to have some sort of committee, ad hoc committee, to kind of unpack this section by section. This is a pretty in-depth report on Trinity County that's going to need a lot more oversight than we probably think. So I'm not sure about the Brown Act thing that Keith and Margaret were talking about, but certainly seems to me that we're going to need to dig into this a lot deeper if we'd like to make this happen in Trinity County.
I would speak to the Brown Act to say that when the committee was formed, the steering committee, the grant was obtained, and then an offer went out to community members, board members, and we were those who responded, who said we're interested in the process and would be willing to serve on that committee. When that began, Supervisor-elect Lute Lyler was not supervisor-elect, and so that was not noticed. When he became a supervisor, I should have noticed that, and I didn't. It just escaped me. As I recall meetings together, Libby was here in person with members of her team. Originally, that would not have been a problem. He was campaigning at the time. And then moving forward, after he was elected, I only recall one meeting. And if memory serves, Supervisor Gogan was not on that meeting. Even if I'm wrong, and I don't think that I am, there were no policy decisions discussed. There was feedback provided for ideas that Libby had spoken about, and that feedback was shared equally among other members that you see listed on that opening page. So my apologies for not noticing that. And so there's the disclosure, and again, no decisions were made out of that. So I trust everyone is comfortable, and if anyone isn't, we certainly can entertain questions, I would think, through the chair. There was a Zoom meeting where we were discussing there were points along the way where Libby and her team did work, and then we came back together as a committee. She shared that work with us, and we provided feedback.
Yeah, I was not present for the Zoom.
Okay. Well, then we don't have any violations because the three of us were never in the same place, I would think.
Well, that's not accurate, but I mean, it's accurate what you're describing, but taking input. that would be a serial meeting.
Oh, follow you. I follow you.
Right.
Okay.
So, and I'm not trying to make a monstrous case out of this. I
Mhm.
really am not, but it just point out that those are the things you have to be careful
Yeah,
with.
no, it's important.
I'm a little more, and I'm not trying to put blame, but to me, it seemed almost it started out as you were meeting as not supervisors, but community leaders.
Mhm.
And then, but it's bringing back to us as like a board document, which would have meant the board should have, and maybe I'm not remembering, I didn't stop by and I don't recall kind of hardly any of it, but more of an ad hoc or a standing committee. I guess it's really not an ad hoc, a standing committee, which would be appointed by the chair.
Yeah, I didn't picture it that way. And I wonder if, Susie, do you want to speak to the vision of this starting off? Or I don't mean to put you on the spot, but it wasn't intended as any kind of a board directed. We were there as community leaders who were willing to participate and provide feedback. She's nodding. I don't know if you want to speak or not.
Yes, Supervisor Cox is correct. When the county noticed or received letter of award, we worked with Libby Cribbings on how to set up the process, and she recommended a steering committee. And we put the word out. There was advertisements in the paper inviting community members. There was a blanket email when Dr. Coons was here that went out to all supervisors requesting anybody that wanted to participate, obviously noticing that we could only have 2 of the 5 members on the committee. And then it was brought back for discussion, just as Jill mentioned. Are there other questions?
This is Supervisor Brown. I just have a question. I don't know if it's for you or not, Susie, but how does this intertwine with the strategic plan? Is there any obligation that either one has to another, or does one supersede another, or does one weave right into it?
I think there's portions of the strategic or the placemaking plan that overlap into the general plan. Again, today, Libby was just here presenting the plan. Again, if the board wants to take action and formally adopt it, set an ad hoc committee and take further action, that could be obviously handled at another meeting. This was a presentation on the process and the outcome. How you guys, set policy and move forward is up to you. And again, there are overlapping sections of the placemaking plan that feed into the general plan.
I view this really as a deep dive of analysis into our county broadly to identify issues and options and make suggestions at opportunity that could be before groups of people, whether it was board directed or community driven. This is not policy. I think it's identification and opportunity is how I would describe it. Susie, do you concur?
Absolutely.
So the question would really come into it intertwining with the general plan, intertwining with our visions, that priorities, if this becomes an integral part of it or just a resource document for that. So if it becomes an integral part, I would agree with Supervisor Gogan that we would appoint a standing committee to go in there and note the errors and maybe get a little broader vision into Trinity County's resources. If it's just a document that we use as a reference guide for other things that we have going on, then it probably should just be, that's what it is, and we're completed. So
I know early on in the process when we were awarded, and as Libby and her team were getting started, we wanted to make sure that when we came to the end of the placemaking plan, and we're there now, that it wasn't just a document in a binder on a shelf, that we actually used it to move the county in the direction that the plan recommended. And that was given a lot of public input and a lot of surveys that were turned in with that public input. So I'm hoping that whatever action we end up taking, or however it feeds into the general plan, that we get some motivation out of it.
I would like to encourage the board to consider, folding this into our strategic plan, because as we discussed at our last board meeting, we want to develop an implementation team of the strategic plan, because there was quite a few deliverables that a lot of the information in this plan, the placemaking plan, touched on, workforce development, housing issues. There's a lot of great information in here, a lot of good suggestions, funding resources that we could, pursue to help materialize a lot of the goals and objectives from the strategic plan. So it's a great document. I really appreciate it, Libby. You guys did an amazing job. Of course, having the beautiful pictures of Trinity really helps to highlight our county. So just a suggestion. I think having too many committees is always a concern, especially if we're all speaking on the same subject. So either or, either we create the implementation team of this action plan or the strategic plan. I would prefer the strategic plan, because it does identify the county's priorities and deliverables.
And so when you're saying to prioritize that, your suggestion is to find ways by which these identified opportunities and suggestions can be folded into that for action toward that end, which makes sense, because that was the one that was worked out with board direction and staff.
Right. And I would
influence.
invite a lot of our community leaders that are in this placemaking plan to be part of our implementation team if they'd like, so that we can combine all of our contacts and resources.
And I think, Susie, we did have some of the surveys, 100 plus community people respond, maybe 150 people from the community.
It was
respond.
170.
170 people. That's a lot for us. I mean, we don't normally get that type of participation. So I think we should carry forward with this. There was a good amount of participation. We should add everybody who said here, the community into this, and have them, work with us. It's, it's their community, it's their county. Let's get everybody on board and see what we can do. 170 people on a survey in Trinity County is a big amount.
And that's in addition to the folks that came
Sure.
to the two public
Yep.
forums.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm with Letty on her thing.
Any other questions on the presentation? All right, well, since this isn't an action item, I guess we can, in the future, I would assume this will come back as some kind of an action item, and we can go into the deep dive of discussion at that time. So moving on, probation, item 1.3, adopt a proclamation of appreciation recognizing Deputy Probation Officer 3, Amy Allward, upon her retirement. A proclamation of the Board of Supervisors of the County of Trinity recognizing Deputy Probation Officer 3, Amy Allward, upon her retirement. Whereas Amy grew up in Trinity County and started her 27-year career in public service as an administrative clerk in the sheriff's office in 1995. Amy also served Trinity County as a legal secretary in the district attorney's office, victim witness division, before she transferred to the probation department as a probation assistant. From there, spent approximately 2 years working as a probation assistant for Shasta County before returning to Trinity County. Amy was hired as a deputy probation officer in 2000 and was promoted to deputy probation officer 3 in 2016. And whereas the Trinity County Superior Court has acknowledged Amy's years of unmatched work ethic and dedication to bettering the lives of all of us who live in Trinity County, she has gone above and beyond at helping the youth in our communities, helping the victims of crimes and helping those in need. She will be deeply missed. And whereas in recognition of Amy's example of consistent and competent preparation for court for all hearings and the mastery of the facts and details in every case assigned to her, no matter how complex or minor. And whereas Amy has written hundreds of reports in her Trinity County probation career, often providing a voice for the victims and sound recommendations for the just resolution of a case, and has been a trusted resource and support to neighboring counties, authoring many conflict reports for those counties. And whereas Amy is extremely knowledgeable in all aspects of the field of probation and possesses a high level of expertise in the penal code and other laws governing the state of California as it pertains to Trinity County defendants and victims. And whereas Amy has great rapport with probation clientele and has worked with 3 generations of many families. And whereas Amy is described by her peers as a hard worker and dependable co-worker, Amy has guided multiple new officers, has been a role model for the court officer position, and set a high bar for others within the probation field. And whereas Amy has known current probation officers since they were children and even babysat one of them, and is known to many in the community as Auntie Amy, which has supported her career of service and connected to the community as positively impact the probation department. And whereas Amy has been deeply involved in the community and has been a positive representation of the department. And whereas Deputy Probation Officer Amy Allward has had an honorable career of service and will be missed in her role in the probation department and her well-deserved retirement. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors thanks Amy for her years of service and wishes her a happy and healthy retirement. Duly passed and adopted this 18th day of October, 2022 by the Board of Supervisors of Trinity County.
Before I make a motion, you were nodding like no, so is there something inaccurate?
I did not work in the district attorney's office. When I was laid off from the sheriff's department as the admin clerk, I came to probation as a part-time legal secretary and a part-time probation assistant so that I could get a 40-hour work week. And Terry Lee and Rennie Knoll were instrumental on making sure that that happened for me.
Okay, with that, I would make a motion to
Adopt it with the corrections.
adopt it with the corrections.
I'll work with Amy to make sure we get it right.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Frazier?
Aye.
Thank you. I was gonna make you all go up there and get a picture. That was my plan.
Oh.
You're fine. I'm put the short guy in the back. Hang on, got one.
I couldn't see. You can.
You can come back. Chairman Brown, may I also give her the plaque, please? I'm sorry, Chairman Frazier. Have it. We also had a plaque made for Amy from the probation department. To Deputy Probation Officer 3, Amy Allward, in sincere appreciation of your many years of distinguished service to Trinity County with 24 years through the probation department. Thank you for your dedication to the field of probation and to the people whose lives you impacted.
Thank you.
I would say that Amy is a wonderful example of youth growing up in Trinity County and staying and finding their livelihood and their joy and being a really important part of the county, giving back and receiving at the same time. And yes, I was her substitute teacher when she was in high school.
I was a senior.
She was. I was only a couple of years older than her. Congratulations.
Right. Well, I am going to suggest we take a 5-minute break before we go into public comment and just resume at 10:06. We already lost.
A perfect example of the neck turning the head.
Back on, and you're gonna let your chairman do his vote.
All right. We will call the October 18th regular meeting of the Trinity County Board of Supervisors back to order. Moving into the public comment period. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda or within the consent calendar. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of the board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Do we have any public comment?
Have Matthew Jefferson.
Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry, the app has been updated. It was different. Matt Jefferson, Coffee Creek. I just wanted, I super appreciate what you had to say, Keith. I super appreciate everything you said about the strategic plan, I think it was called. That was pretty awesome. Like they're stating workforce development, revitalization and quality of life, building local wealth, camaraderie, building a team. I really hope that some of those things can I don't know how we would actually achieve those things happening, but I hope that that can actually happen because that's definitely what we're battling up here. And I was not trying to call you guys discriminatory on the board or whatever. I was just trying to say that that's kind of that's just how it went down and that's what happened. Of course you can ban churches in a certain place that's done off of zoning. And the original law, it did that. I moved from an RR1 because that was not an allowable zoning district for cannabis. And that, they built all of those things. Those were legal. That was awesome. But then up here in North Lake, none of Coffee Creek and Trinity Center, that was already zoned out. And then 5 of us got licenses. And then all of a sudden this opt-out zone thing went in and they're no, we don't want any of you up here. And it was all legacy growers, it was an outright attack against cannabis, and we want to build a team too. We want to be a part of it. And I just hope that this camaraderie can happen, we want to bring workforce development. We want to bring local wealth. I know 10 farmers up here that want to get licenses. Anyways, I'm not trying to just rant and rave. I just really appreciated that strategic planning thing. I really appreciated your comments, Keith. I totally agree with that. And just on another note, man, I super appreciate you, Keith, and you bring so much to the table. It just brings a lot of worry into my brain when you're not going to be on our board. And I super appreciate, you're my neighbor and I consider you a very good friend, and I will definitely miss you not being on the board. But thank you guys. Have a good day.
I have Veronica Kelly Albies.
Good morning, Veronica Kelly Albies with Weaverville Douglas City Parks and Recreation District. It was really great to hear the placemaker report today. I look forward to reading a little bit more of what they presented to you online or digitally. And I participated in their Weaverville meeting. I would like to continue to encourage the board to look at sporting and recreational opportunities for economic growth within the county of Trinity. There have been, it would be very interesting to know what kind of economic boost the businesses throughout Trinity County get every time there is a large event in town, whether through volleyball, basketball. The Holiday Classic is coming up in December, the Ice Bowl for disc golf in Leafong Park, and several other, the softball, baseball, all of that. What's great about those kind of opportunities is they help support the economic the economics of the county, but go around some of the problems we have right now. Housing. We need more hotels for sure, but people are ready to camp and ready to enjoy the beauty of Trinity County, which was discussed as well. So I really encourage you to kind of look into those opportunities as well. They are very viable for Trinity County, all of Trinity County. And those kind of partnerships throughout the US as well as locally will help build those. And there is grants to help build those things as well. So I just want to bring that up and just kind of remind you that those are ways that bring tourists in. It ties into the tourism, but it's also a way just to get people here spending their money, which then raises the wages as well and provides work for people throughout the county. Thank you very much.
I have no new raised hands, no chats.
All right. And seeing none in the room. All right, Jeff just raised his hand. Do you have public comment, Jeff?
Yes, I do. Thanks. I wanted to bring Jeff Gadella, Xenia. I wanted to bring it to the attention of the board that there's been a policy change on the cultivation tax. As you guys, I'm sure, are aware, most of us cultivators don't have county licenses. And the tax assessor is asking for tax information from us. And the tax does not apply to people that do not hold both licenses. CAO Coons, former CAO Coons, made that explicitly clear. That is why the tax period from July 2001 to October was shortened after we lost our licenses. And now all of a sudden there's been some policy change where it's back on again. And we have to report all this information, even though we haven't grown anything. I think you guys should look into that. I don't know why this policy has changed. I would love to know who changed it and hold somebody accountable and fix it. It's just another little jab at growers trying to kick us when we're already down. It gets tiresome. I don't think the county has a leg to stand on this argument. The ordinance is explicitly clear on who pays taxes. And if you do not hold both licenses, both state and county, you are not responsible for taxes. The county would like to collect cultivation taxes. They need to issue licenses, and you guys have done a terrible job at that. Though things have improved with Drew in there and the changes that were made, but this season's been lost. It's the county's responsibility to hold up their end of the bargain on this cultivation tax, and that means you have to have licenses issued. Please do everything possible to get out of the way of the growers and let them conduct business. It's good for everybody in the county, including the county COFERs. That's all I got to say. Some of you should have an email in your inbox explaining our position. Thanks.
Go ahead, Dana.
Hi, thanks, Chair. This is Dana from Hayfork. Backing up what Jeff just said, the email requesting the tax reporting to all people waiting in line to get their Appendix Cs and approved seems way out of line. There's already been a precedent set from how this was handled last fall. It seems like really bad advice from our legal counsel, which makes me question why something with a precedent that they already set, why they would go against it this year. It seems like just sloppy advice. And that really concerns me.
Do we lose her or did she just mute?
She muted, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
That is the last hand and chat that we had.
All right. Any public comment from the room? And not very much public. All right. With that, we'll close the public comment period and move on to reports and announcements. Item 2.1. Reports from department heads. They're racing today.
Good morning. Shanna White, County Clerk, Recorder, Assessor, Registrar of Voters. As everybody knows, or most everybody knows, Tuesday, November 8th is Election Day. So I wanted to put out there that all elections materials have been mailed. Everybody should have received them if you're an active registered voter in Trinity County. And if you haven't, that they should contact our office. So if you hear of anybody, tell them, please contact the office. There's a lot of information going around. I've had people contact the office and say, well, I heard this. And well, that's not quite true. Please, any questions, refer them to our office so that way they're getting the actual information. We have secure drop boxes throughout the county. We're required to have one, but I have 5. There's one in Douglas City. We moved that one. It was at the fire station. We moved it by the transit stop. There's one in Hayfork at the transit stop that's by the library. There's one in Junction City by the fire station there. There's one in Lewiston at the fire station. And then there's one in Weaverville that's there at the courthouse. And they're all pretty much drive up. You can drive up, put your ballot in. It's secure. It's checked by people from my office. So they're secure and there's a chain of command. There's always 2 people with those ballots. And then we do have polling places again this election. Wanted to put that out there. Hayfork at the Trinity County Fairgrounds and the dining hall. Junction City at the community center, Lewiston at the fire hall, and then Weaverville at the Veterans Hall. So I just wanted to report that out. And please, if you hear of anybody with any questions, to send them our way. Thank you.
Shannon, quick question.
Yep.
If I could. When you listed the drop-off box places, you said there's 5 and I'm thinking 4. So you said Weaverville, Junction City, Douglas City, Hayfork, Lewiston. I can count 5.
Perfect.
Just wanted to prove that.
Is it?
That was it, except
Okay.
I did want to find out. So people in the South County are expected to come north if they want to use the drop-off, but they can use mail.
They can use the mail. Correct. Yeah. And that's postage paid. So that comes out of the county's coffers.
So all the ballots have been mailed out?
Yes, Keith, they have.
Okay. And my recollection is that it was changed previously, but if you're going to vote at your polling place, you bring your ballot that you've been mailed.
That is correct. There was some legislation that passed. It says every registered voter will receive every active registered voter will receive their ballot in the mail. But if you are a polling place voter, you can surrender that ballot and that envelope at the polling location that you would normally go to, and then you can vote a poll ballot. If you don't have the ballot and the envelope, you're going to have to fill out some paperwork, and we're going to have to confirm that you didn't already receive a ballot and vote a ballot. Well, and so that way we can confirm that you don't have to vote twice.
I just want to make that clear for people out there that to bring
Perfect.
your ballot to.
Thank you for bringing that up, Keith. I appreciate that. Anything else?
So Shannon, post-COVID, we lost the Douglas City polling place. And I've had a lot of people ask me about why and why it's not coming back.
Well, it's not post-COVID. It's due to redistricting.
So it's not there.
Nope.
Due to redistricting.
It's due to redistricting. Correct, Liam.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, this is department head report out.
Morning, Chair, Board, CEO Garza, County Council, Ed Presley, Interim Deputy Director of Building and Planning. And I just wanted to report out just for a second, continue maybe some of the good news and some of the positivity that's going on in Trinity County. And this is revolving around the general plan update. So there will be community meetings, which there will be going out to all the different communities around the county. I have the places, I have the dates and the times that I would like to just read off of the flyer, just so that everybody gets the full scope of how broad this is going to be. Tuesday, November 1st, starting at 6 p.m. There'll be a community meeting in Hayfork at the fairgrounds. Simultaneously, there will be a community meeting at the Veterans Hall here in Weaverville, and those will go from 6 to 9 p.m. On Wednesday, the 2nd of November, starting at 6 p.m., there'll be a community meeting in Lewiston at the Community Center. At the same time, there will be one at Junction City at the Junction City Elementary School. On Thursday, November the 3rd, there will be a community meeting in Post Mountain at the Post Mountain Fire Department. At the same time, there'll be a community meeting in Hyam Palm at 100 Corral Bottom Road. That's at the community center there. On Friday, November the 4th, there will be a community meeting in Hawkins Bar at the Hawkins Bar Fire Department. And at the same time, starting at 6 o'clock in Douglas City at the Douglas City Fire Department. And then on Saturday, to wrap up the community meetings for this iteration, starting at 6 p.m. on 11/5 is going to be a community meeting in Ruth at the Ruth Lake CSD. And at the same time, we'll be in Trinity Center at the Oddfellows Hall. So while it may seem like things have kind of been on hold or not been gaining, I guarantee you that the background report is being produced and there will be a lot of activities going forward. And like I said, this is just the first iteration of the community meetings that we have scheduled for the county. There will be one later on as well. But we wanted to get out into the communities and actually start getting to work on the community input for the community plans that was so, it was dramatically requested around the county. So we're going to have a general plan, but we're also going to have community plans as well interwoven into that. And Skylar has some packets, and I would request that the board members would assist us in giving, and I have a packet for the CAO as well, or Skylar does. That if you would just help get the word started, getting it out there. Skylar, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So we have one general packet which shows all of the community meeting locations, but we also have community specific flyers. So Burnt Ranch, Covington Mill, we tried to get as many communities, their individual flyers as possible. So promoting the individual events happening in those communities. And those flyers also have the other community events that will be happening in the other communities. So there should be an ad in the Trinity Journal tomorrow promoting all of this. And we're going to be promoting it as hard as we can to try to get as much engagement as possible, because we think that it's important to get community input in this process, because it wouldn't be possible without it. So
just one clarification. Ruth Lake Community Service District Hall is in Mad River. It's not in Ruth. So just so people don't go to Ruth for that meeting when it's in Mad River.
You know, that's very true. I didn't look at the address. The address is 12200 Mad River Road. So yes, thank you for that, sir.
It seemed to, those don't seem to match very well.
Okay, we can double check on that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So the community plans, have you previously or coming in with preconceived structure of what those will be? So for example, Lewiston has one, Hayfork has one. There was work years ago, someplace in a file, I have the work done for the North Lake Community Plan, but it was never completed. So are we planning just to redo the ones we have, or are we looking to expand, or you'll just take that input from the community meetings and see what happens?
So due to budgetary concerns with getting specific in the community plans, they regionalized to get population centers to get the most bang for the buck. The larger population centers will basically have their own community plan. But as part of the initial review process, our team at Mentor Harnish, they did review all of the plans that are available. I'm not sure if they would have reviewed that one.
They wouldn't have, because I think I probably have the only copy left on the planet.
If it's digital, if you could send it to me, I can definitely make sure.
This was right after the moon launch. So
you know what, the way we want to do this is we want to be all inclusive, not exclusive. We want to include every single thing that we can. So if you do have a copy, maybe the original copy. I'll be real gentle with it and copy that and digitize it and make sure our team has it when they do go out.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ed, sorry, I didn't know you were leaving there. Who's showing up from the county to these meetings? Since they're going to be 2 in each community at the same night. I was just wondering how we were breaking. I know now.
So
You too.
Skylar's going to head one of them up, and then I will head the other one up.
Thank
So
you
the one
very
in Post Mountain, I will definitely be there for that one. One, because I haven't been to the actual fire hall there, but again, I want to interact with the community as much as possible. I think it's very important.
Thank you.
Good morning, Terry McBrayer, Treasurer Tax Collector. Just wanted to update you and let you know that the annual property tax bills went out this week, as well as the cannabis tax for this particular installment. So basically what occurred with that was that I have no way of knowing other than from the building department, the cannabis department, that who has a license or who does not. So we sent that out based on the information that we have. And so I did reach out and we're going to work on other methods so that we are updated as far as who actually has a license and who does not. So those that do not have a license would not be subject to the tax. So just wanted to.
Was that made clear in the information that you sent out, that if you do not have a county license, you do not pay the tax?
No. We didn't specify anything in there other than that, there is discrepancy, but I did reach out to council because there are the reports I received from the state. We have many that are in fact still. I'm reaching out as well to hopefully have some sort of clarification for myself, because my understanding, I thought they needed to have both licenses if they were to sell, a county and a state. We have some that are still selling with the state. So we're receiving reports saying that they're selling, but they're saying that they don't have a county license. So I have a lot of discrepancy there, but I did speak with council and they said, nope, do not charge those folks. And so even though they are selling with the state, so.
Would it be wise to send out a letter to those folks that states that if you don't have a county license, well, basically what you said today, I have no idea who has a county license or not. Could you explain that in a letter?
Yeah, we could do something. We could send something out. Yeah, not a problem.
Because the last thing the ad hoc needs is more stress.
Understand. So yeah, we can definitely do that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So for clarity, it's state and county during that time period for taxation.
I'm sorry?
You have to have a state and a county license.
What I'm saying is I am hoping to have some clarification from the cannabis department on just how that whole process works, because what I'm receiving from the state is different from what I'm being told. So I'm just clarifying because that is not my area of expertise. And so I am reaching out and making sure that we are doing as we should.
And Supervisor Gogan, that is correct. The way it's written, it is an and, so it requires to have a both state and a county license in order to be subject to the tax and also to be able to grow legally within the county.
Very good. Because I'm looking back because I got a lot of feedback on this. I think there was less than 10 people that had a state and county license during that time frame.
Potentially, I can only state what I have from the state. So
Right.
I'm not aware of who all has the license from the county.
So could we kind of make sure that we go forward with sending out a letter to the other?
Yeah,
whoever?
that's what I said. I will.
That'd be great. I appreciate that. I think they would too. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Good morning, Chair, Board. Tim Saxon, Sheriff. Okay, we'll start off with last week on the 12th and 13th. I was invited to participate at the California Cannabis Control Conference down in Sacramento. I sat on a panel titled Best Practices for Cannabis Law Enforcement. And I was there with Atwater Police Department, LAPD, and San Bernardino Sheriff's Office. It was an interesting participation, a lot of questions from people not only in the industry, but also state and county entities, all there to discuss different programs related to social equity licensing programs, issues related to dual licensing, crafting policies regarding taxation, transportation, retail ordinances. We also had updates on federal policies and future legislations and things like that that was going on. It was a 2-day conference, very enlightening, a lot of information. Also, while there, I had an opportunity to see a presentation from a private company called Orange Photonics, and they have a product that's called a cannabis analyzer. It's a portable device. Primarily, it was developed out in the field to differentiate between cannabis and hemp. Although we don't have hemp grown here in Trinity County, I started talking to the people selling that. Come to find out that it can also differentiate and test edibles and things of that nature. So I started thinking a lot about some of the conversations I've had with some of the educators in our schools, and particularly Superintendent Jamie Green, with some of the issues that they've been having with students bringing edibles and vaping devices into the schools. And come to find out that this device can test those products. And so I started thinking that we might be able to utilize some Prop 64 grant funding that we still have available to look at purchasing one of these devices and having our Prop 64 juvenile crimes deputy be trained in it to help our school districts around the county should they have an issue with students bringing in edibles and vaping devices, to be able to test those and see whether or not they contain cannabis derivatives, and hopefully help curb that in our schools. So I am pursuing that to see whether or not we do have grant funds left in that, and whether the various school districts would be interested in having us come in there and help with that issue. We're testing, in fact, today we're testing individuals for hiring correctional deputies we have 5 currently funded vacancies, so we're working on that. And if you weren't aware of it, I'll advise you that Assembly Bill 759 was signed by the governor on September 29th. And basically that changes Section 1300 of the Elections Code, which moved the election of sheriff and district attorney throughout the state in each of the 58 counties to the presidential primary, which means, and specifically says, that any district attorney or sheriff who was elected in 2022 now gets to serve a 6-year term for this time. Which means the next presidential election in 2028 is when the people in Trinity County and throughout the state of California will have the next opportunity to elect a district attorney and sheriff. So with these on here, November, next month, I get to add another one. And then if I do complete, God willing, the next terms, I'll get 2 more put on here. So I think there'll be enough room on there. Anyway, thank you.
Any other department heads? Any on Zoom?
I have Connie online.
Go ahead, Connie.
Good morning, Chairman Fraser, Board of Supervisors. Connie Smith, Behavioral Health. I just wanted to give the board an update on what's going on in behavioral health these days. Our much anticipated mobile crisis unit, our crisis team has had the opportunity to go out and select a vehicle that they believe will work for that rolling crisis office that we're going to be bringing up. So we're in the process right now of purchasing that vehicle, and then we will begin the retrofitting. Our next step, we're going to be putting like Starlink and the best connectivity equipment that we can on that vehicle, so that vehicle can really provide services all over the county, regardless of the how remote that is. So we're going to be beginning training next and hope to have that vehicle in for retrofitting in the next 30 days. And hopefully very soon you'll see it out in the community and parked at the school events, after school events, along with other first responders. We are hoping to have a presence at our sporting events, et cetera, around the county. And so that's really exciting for us. We have a lot of changes going on at behavioral health. We currently have 180 active consumers that we're serving, Trinity County consumers. And just for your information, 64% of behavioral health consumers are adults and 36% are children, the Medi-Cal definition of children being 21 and younger. We're working right now on developing a report for the board that will break this down further and kind of give each of you a picture of what our services look like in each of your districts. My analyst staff are working on developing that report now for you. So I hope to be able to bring that to you soon. And let's see, finally, I just wanted to let you know that we've been updating our lobby to bring the building that we currently lease for behavioral health services up to ADA compliance. And I just wanted to give a huge thank you and shout out to County General Services for the really quick, really professional work that they did. They came in and they've done this several times for us, but really quickly we're able to put those windows in for wheelchair accessibility and ADA compliance for the behavioral health department. So that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Any questions? Don't see any. Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on to report from County Administrative Officer.
Yes, good morning, board. Just wanted to report out that we currently have a vacancy in the office again. Unfortunately, our account technician accepted a job somewhere else and we're going to miss her greatly. So just wanted to make sure the board's informed and the public as well. Once again, Susie's workload will probably be full again, and I will do my best to assist her as much as I can in that area. So just want to let the board know and just make sure everyone knows we have a vacancy and a recruitment is happening. Okay, that's all I have at the moment.
All right. Reports from members of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Groves, let's start on your end.
So I'll give a little report on TMC, what's some interesting things going on there. There's been a lot of upheaval in TMC that Liam's alluded to, but I've got a letter here from Mike Dixon, and I think it's important for this board to know that there's problems going on over there and a morale problem. So I'll just read a couple lines here. Several recent conversations with staff and managers across the various entities who participate in our program have led me to believe that confidence in our future is low and morale is generally not great. He goes on to ask for a poll on how to try to make things better, which I answered, and I'm sure Supervisor Gogan did also. But I think we are at an important crossroads at TMC. I think there's a reasonable probability that TMC might just kind of collapse as an organization in the next 6 to 12 months. I think it's important for us to keep an open mind on what's going to happen there and how Trinity County remains and participates in this river. And it may not happen. It might come back together. And hold back up. So I just wanted the board to know that that issue. I've been in harvest, so I haven't participated much outside of the outside meetings, which there hasn't been any. And I do want to congratulate Supervisor Gogan on his son's coaching at Trinity Highs for winning their first ball game that they have for the year, and his son's doing a great job. And just on a good note, it was fun to go down to Hamilton City and watch the freshmen and sophomores win their game. That's it.
Supervisor Cox.
So the first thing I guess I would start off with is a question of our CAO. We received what I think is awesome news in our mailboxes and want to know if we have a plan for applying for these funds and we won't miss the deadline.
Yes, I scheduled to meet with Susie this week to review that proposal.
Okay,
Yes.
this is the Treasury releases local assistance and tribal consistency fund payments to eligible counties, and they are doing the math based on $300 per person in the county. So times 16,101 gives us the opportunity at $4.818 million, which I'm sure we could find a use for. I spent a couple of hours with the county council, just having conversations, preparing for my opportunity to take Dan's seat in January. I have spent probably 4 or 5 hours in Health and Human Services, visiting with Director Hamilton and Marcy, Mike, just talking about structure, process, needs, goals. They have 2 new committees they would like to see formed with supervisorial representation on it. So our list is going to grow by 2. I'm working with admin on these community committee lists that we have, just to update what's the need, what's the expectation. Let's be really clear up front about which of them are Form 700 requirements, which of them are Brown Act committees, so that we onboard new supervisors in a healthy, knowledgeable way. So a broadband update to answer Supervisor Grove's question before. Digital 299 is alive and well. It is expected that the environmental permits will be finished by the end of the year. They are, I know, okay. They are requesting bids from contractors, so that's a really encouraging observation and step. This project is a private build with open access, and so no government dollars are involved, which means that public funding will be needed for off-ramps. And so it is expected that a Public Utilities Commission grant will fund a Weaverville to Mad River leg of this. So we've got an update coming from Connie Stewart. We're scheduling her for 2 separate presentations for November 1st. One of them is on the whole broadband development, and then the second one will be on Cal Poly Humboldt with its conversion from Humboldt State, as she is a part of both of those things. So it's exciting too. Our CAO is preparing a master list of addresses of every government building, every water tower, public works facility, et cetera, within 1 mile of the roadway, because this identification will ensure priority delivery of fiber to those locations, which can be then tapped off of. So that's in process, correct? Yes. Yeah. And let's see, moving on. Director Caucus is here with us, but I'll give the update. The signs that are going to be donned at each of the entrances to Weaverville that say Trinity County, where we honor our veterans, have been ordered. They are expected to be delivered by the end of the year. And if folks aren't too busy plowing snow, then the erection of those signs will be the first priority. and we're hoping for snow, but we will get those signs up. I did participate in, I'll just read this briefly, and then if anybody has additional questions, I can supply detailed information. Orca Behavioral Health has a vision of creating a community for older adults with mental illness in Northern California that is capable of providing seniors with high quality comprehensive care throughout the lifespan. The community would be comprised of several different service modules that combine to create a welcoming, safe environment with capacity to provide whole person care to seniors at all levels of need, from acute psychiatric care to permanent supportive housing with embedded primary health care, social and rehabilitation services. The hub of this proposed community would be located in Shasta County, with its central, which is central to Northern California, and would serve residents from all 17 Northern California counties. So I was reached out to by the leadership of this, asking for a letter of support. So I first made sure to reach out to Chantel Estes to make sure that this would be something that our county would be able to participate in. And she confirmed that was so. And she actually got very excited about the details and the prospects before us. And so I did provide that letter of support. I think it would be good to make sure that the public is aware that we have notice of vacancy positions on the Architectural Review Committee. The 3 that have been posted would be for an architect, contractor, builder, an art community member, and an historical society member. And then there are also notice of vacancies posted throughout the county. Each of the supervisors, I'm sure, are aware of those that are within their district. Here in District 2, there is an opening, 2 vacancies actually, on the Trinity Life Support Community Services District Board, and 1 vacancy on the Weaverville Douglas City Parks and Recreation Board. And I followed up with Tom March of Caltrans regarding the discussion that ensued on the whole deliberation of what will happen with our Main Street trees. And there is a committee being established that is being put together by Kelly Sheen at the RCD so that community input can happen, and then informed decisions can be made. And then I also chaired the PSA 2 meeting yesterday, one of the last ones that I will chair, as I will step down from that chair position and will be nominating Supervisor Gogan to take up that gauntlet for me in January. We'll see how he feels about that. That's it. Plenty of notice. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
All right. Well, much shorter. I had no out of county travel and nothing to report this meeting. So, and a good 2 weeks of lack of meetings for me.
Well, first of all, thanks, Jill, for breaking that news to me today. But she has done a great job with PSA 2. It's a worthy cause that I think we do a great job at Roderick Center and up here. It's a great organization that we work with. It has great management. Terry does a super job. Jill did a great job. So if you're asking me to take over, you're big shoes to fill, but I'll do the best I can. As far as Keith goes, 2 things. Thanks to Keith for the football comment. It's really great to see Keith down there, who has nobody on the team, but he's down there rooting in Hamilton City for the JV and varsity team. And both the coaches are Trinity County coaches. The head coach is from Hayfork, and my son is a JV head coach, and he's born and raised here in Trinity County and will stay here in Trinity County. So it's nice to see that we do raise some kids to stick around. And my son being 23, he's going to be here for the rest of his life, and he's happy to be here for the rest of his life and to coach and work at Trinity High. So thanks to all our crowd, Keith for being there, and the JV finally getting a win. They haven't won since COVID, so it was good to see. the TMC part of things that Keith mentioned, you know, he's correct when he says about kind of the worrisome nature, especially with that input coming out about how disappointed, and it certainly wasn't from myself or Keith. I don't think we voiced a lot of input about our disappointment, but apparently inside of TRRP, they are feeling misguided. I'm not sure what the correct word is, but to put out a survey like that about how the people that work inside of TRP and TMC members feel about how TMC is performing is questionable to me. They did do something similar, I think, Keith, back when they did the Headwaters report. They anonymously interviewed all the employees at TRP and presented that in a public document to the people. And it was overwhelmingly very, very bad what the employees thought about the management of Trinity River Restoration Program. I got the feeling that's going to be the same results again. So with that being said, and Keith mentioning what would be, you know, a really tough thing for this county is if we lost our seat on TMC, we have to have representation on Trinity River Restoration, on TMC, about the things that go on in this river. We have someone from our county who works there, is employed there part-time. We are number one water user, the first water user on the Trinity River. So I am concerned that there's any talk about the TMC going away, but I think it's a valid thing to think about. And I think that restoration would like to move forward without any oversight from anybody, especially the TMC. So I think Keith's concerns, if I capitalize them right, are very valid. We need to make sure that we keep on the TMC or have some sort of FACA group, stakeholders group that is involved from this county to make sure that restoration is doing the right thing. So I'm concerned about that. As far as any outside travel, I had none, and that is it for me.
Supervisor Brown.
I don't really have anything to report out.
All right, thank you. With that, Keith, you want to start our cannabis cultivation ad hoc report? I will.
Well, we didn't have an ad hoc meeting last Thursday.
We did not. And did we have?
And what I would like to put maybe Drew on the spot to see if he has any updated numbers on signed licenses or Ed, whoever may have those numbers off the top of their head or something close.
Good morning, Chair, Supervisors. I did not bring the updated numbers, so if you have the numbers from last week, we could add to them, but I didn't bring that. I didn't expect to.
Do you have a number? How many were noticed this in the past week?
Since the last ad hoc, I believe we noticed an additional 8 that week and then 5 more.
Okay.
And any idea what's going to make this week's paper?
We did the submission to the paper early Monday morning. So it was, my understanding was that they may or may not have made it in the paper, and I didn't receive confirmation from the newspaper as to whether it made it in the print or not.
What number would that be?
I believe it was 5.
Okay, 5 more.
Yep.
Right.
Ed's whispering 4.
Ed's saying 4, so we'll go with that.
So so the good news here for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we're kind of averaging 5 a week, roughly, which is still a pace below where we'd like to be, but is definitely on the upswing, getting things rolling through. I really don't have anything else that I can think of right now.
Not a lot to report. Some of the discussion we had at our last ad hoc meeting will be in item 4.1. And other than that, I don't think we have anything.
Yeah, so any questions?
Just one question. I think it happened prior to this week, but there was a problem with getting it to the paper on time, maybe before Drew was here, and we didn't get them posted in the paper on Wednesday. Is there a time crunch there where it's really tight on Friday to get it in and Monday seems to be the day? Or what causes that not to be turned in on Friday and Monday perhaps is too late for them to be noticed?
So I'm kind of going to speak for Drew here, but what ends up happening is when we get compliance memos out from the consultant groups, when we receive them back, we have to do basically an evaluation to make sure that all the requirements are met on the ordinance side of it before they can be noticed. And sometimes it's with everything else that's going on, it creates a real big kind of a push to try to figure out what is the last minute thing. And then, to get everything approved, to be able to notice them. But then also sometimes there's with policy changes, with just inner workings and stuff. And one of the problems that we had one of the weeks was there was like a policy that was different, that was being questioned. And so basically that made Sean, I'm not sure if Drew was in the seat at that point, but it made him pull back from even noticing them in the paper because they wanted to make sure that everything met the legal requirement before they were posted. So that's kind of some of the inner workings of stuff that they deal with. It's certainly not ideal, and it's not what we want to do going forward. I would rather get the recommendations from the consultants on Monday or Tuesday and then have them ready to be noticed on Wednesday. So there's a couple of days notice. We have begged and pleaded, which we actually did this week, Monday morning, to be able to get them in the paper this week. So we'll see if they are in there tomorrow, but I'm pretty hopeful they're going to be in there tomorrow.
Was that with Wayne? You begged and pleaded with Wayne at the paper?
Well, it wasn't me. It was cannabis staff.
Sure.
I just saw the emails, please, can we get them in there this week? Well, none of that's intentional. And we would, honestly, we would like to see a tremendous uptick, but just the amount of workload to get these things through there is, it's a difficult process. We're hoping to get better going forward. We're hoping cannabis staff gets better going forward as they start bringing those internal reviews. Instead of it being all external, it can go to the consultants for a first review or maybe a second review, and then come back to cannabis staff to actually be reviewed. But we actually received a question this week. What changed? How were you able to get 8 license noticed? And then the following week, 8 license noticed. And so it's kind of like, wow, so they question us when we don't get as many and they question us when we get more, but the whole point is to have as many as possible every single week. And so 8 is, I kind of have high standards. I don't look at 8 as a success. I don't. If you give me 15 to 20, I would say that's a success. But, I feel like we're just creeping along, but we're getting better as we creep along. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that as we get the process better.
Ed, just a guess, how long do you think it'd be till we get 15, 20 and we're not creeping along? I know that's a hard question. Are we moving towards that quicker than we have been? Is the routine getting a little more fluid? People getting used to what they're doing, I'll say.
So obviously I have to be honest, it's the budgetary constraints that actually did put a little bit of a stranglehold on it a little bit. And so we needed to bring the workload that you have 10 to 15 people doing with our consultants. Now we have 2. But the way we're working through that is we're letting the consultants do the majority of the first review, maybe a second review, and then bringing that in-house. So that's really what we're looking for is trying to get more and more of these licenses through. To go back to your question, 15 to 20 a week, it may be the first of the year before we're that fluid. I just don't want to put unreasonable expectations on staff so they feel like, somebody's hammering them. You have to do this many and this many, because what that'll lead to is people cutting corners. And, obviously liability at the county level is foremost on everybody's mind in cannabis.
Understandable. I mean, if we could get to 20 a week in the first of the year, which is coming pretty quick, we're just, 8 weeks out. I'd be thrilled. I think the cannabis community would be thrilled. And I just wanted to say thanks to both you and Drew for the hard work you guys are doing. I've heard nothing but good things about the both of you, lately, which is a big turnaround from what I was hearing for a while. So just thanks to everybody, the staff there. I appreciate it. I think the community appreciates it. And I think they understand that hard work's being done and you guys are doing the best job you can.
All the accolades,
thanks to both of you.
All the accolades
All of
are
you.
to the staff. It has nothing to do with me. It's basically all their work. I mean, because they're the ones that rubber meets the road. There's the one that actually get out there and does the hours and hours of staring at the computer to look for inconsistencies in these Appendix Cs, and then whether or not they mesh with the county ordinance. So basically, it's all the staff. So that's one of the reasons why I like having extra staff here, so that they can get some time in the podium or whatever, so that everybody gets to recognize them, because they're the ones that actually do the work. So I couldn't be more appreciative to the work and the job that they're doing.
Thank you very much. And I already told everybody that Ed doesn't do nothing anyway, so don't worry about it. I'm just kidding you. Thank you very much.
All right, any other questions for cannabis ad hoc?
I think it's in that 20 number. I don't know if we ever get there. If the speed increases, at some point we have a kind of a backlog that came out of the CEQA, and we had to get through our side. And so they have picked up that speed, but I don't see any way that 20 come out of CEQA a week. I just don't.
Ed?
That's a possibility. Please prove me wrong.
I absolutely love a challenge. I love a challenge. And, and again, honestly, I can say what we're looking at is the grants that are available, the CDFA grant, and then the equity assessment grant that hopefully we're going to be able to utilize those funds to put more environmental compliance staff in the seat, because that's going to be where the consultants, yes, eventually we're going to taper off. Money is not what it was a year ago for them, but we need people in the seats doing these jobs over an 8-hour period instead of being torn between one county or another county. This is your primary job, and we need you to do this only day in, day out. So I love the challenge, but that's why I gave it 2 months before I started even thinking about that. But if we can get more environmental compliance in the seat, guaranteed it can be done. Guaranteed.
Okay.
We'll see if we get more environmental compliance in the seats. But
I'll give you a case of wine when you get to 20.
I'm not sure if that's bribery, counsel. No, I appreciate that, sir.
The other thing I didn't mention, Keith, you said you're in Harvest. I had no idea you had a cannabis license.
There is something besides cannabis in this county.
Jesus, I'm sorry.
All right.
Let's move along. Consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. If a member of the public has any questions or comments on an item on the consent calendar, they may provide them now. A member of
Supervisor Groves.
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Brown.
Aye.
Chairman Frazier.
Aye. Right. Public hearings. Cannabis, item 4.1. Conduct a public hearing to consider adopting a resolution establishing fees for cannabis storefront retail as follows. Cannabis storefront retail application with director's use permit for $1,000. Cannabis storefront retail application with conditional use permit, $4,500. And cannabis storefront retail license fee is $700. Unknown revenue to the cannabis division. Sir.
Chair, supervisors, I tasked division staff with working through the process of developing these fees. And so I'm going to turn it over to code compliance specialist, Bella Hedke, and she's going to do the presentation. I'm here for any questions if you have them when she's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and Board. They're going to set up a little presentation real quick. Okay, so I provided a brief explanation of how we got to the retail fees that are presented to you today. So we first started with reaching out to nearby counties and seeing if there was any patterns with their fees or anything. And we found that there was a wide range of fees that range from $716 to $10,000. And really the main pattern I found was that cost recovery is where most jurisdictions try to aim towards so they can have long-term sustainability in their divisions. So the Department of Cannabis Control also was an example that we went off of. They have a $1,000 fee for the first year, and then they self-report their gross sales, and that sets up what fees they're going to be paying throughout the years. So ultimately, we went with a cost recovery strategy. And in order to cover the cost of the use permit, and that's either a director's use permit or a conditional use permit, and the retail storefront license type itself. We did that by figuring out the proposed, sorry, let me go back a second. So the two things that we needed to consider here that were unique were that the retail activities were not analyzed in the final programmatic EIR. So each retail application is going to be subject to a site-specific CEQA review. And then, so we needed to keep that in mind with costs because that can, as we know, tend to be a larger cost in the scheme of things. And then we also have a different license type, which is, it's a 3-year license type. The first year is 1 year, and then the second year it renews for 3 years. So I wanted to keep in mind those costs if we were going to have costs. But it looks like the way it's set up is that we're going to review for that second year, and then we're not anticipating any specific review and therefore costs in the third and fourth year. So with that in mind, unless there was any complaints that we needed to investigate, then we would definitely go out and check it. So the methods, I set up hypothetical situations working in the planning department for some time now of the different staff positions that would be required in order to process a use permit and the license. Those activities do happen slightly in tandem, but not really, because the use permit needs to be approved first in order for that parcel to have the land use entitlement in order to qualify to apply for a license. So these are in your board packet, but I just put them up here as slides to show, what it takes to go through these permits. And I also outlined the minimum required hours. I didn't try to max it out. We do want to get as close as we can to cost recovery, but we've never processed these permits before, so we don't entirely know for certain how long it might take. Let's see. So the director's use permit application totaled out to $1,000. And then the conditional use permit application totaled out to $4,500. Then the licensing fee totaled out to $700. And this slide just shows a snapshot of what I just discussed and the various fees. So the first year, if you qualified for a director's use permit, it would be $1,700. If it was a parcel that needed a conditional use permit, that would be $5,200. And you'd also, that's including the $700 licensing fee in that first year. And then the second year will be $700, and that license would last for 3 years. And with that, I recommend that the board adopt a resolution in order to establish commercial cannabis storefront retail fees and licensing fees, application and licensing fees, or deny and provide staff with direction to revise and return at a future meeting. Do you have any questions?
Do you have any technical questions for Stella before we open public comment?
Yeah, Ms. Hedke. So what happens if somebody protests a DUP? So that person pays $500, but that probably doesn't pay for the cost recovery for a planning commission meeting to hear it. Does the applicant get charged, or is this just the department eats a little bit of money until we upgrade our fees?
That's a
And
great
out of the
question.
corner of my eye, I see somebody's head bobbing up.
She knows too. Yeah, it's a great question. So first, if they want to protest it, they do have the ability to just comment. So you can comment before the director makes a decision. And then if you decide that you want to ultimately appeal the decision, once it's made, it is a $500 fee. And that is based on county code that as it stands. And I wouldn't necessarily assume that that's a cost recovery, because $500 does not cover the various staff amount, like the various staff positions that would go into getting it to a public hearing.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions. First off, I may or may not be remembering the ordinance correctly, but it seemed to me as though there were compliance inspections slated into years 2 through 4.
I did not find that in going through the ordinance, but
Okay.
I'm happy to check that out again.
Then I may just be remembering it correctly because it's been a good number of weeks since I read it.
No problem.
Okay. And then the other thing that I would wonder if you would want to consider is when the comparison costs were given out,
Mhm.
the city of Ukiah does a process where they have an amount that they think is going to be sufficient for an initial deposit, and then they have a cost recovery of the actual fees so they can track each situation as it occurs. And it seems like a process like that might keep us from going into the deficit with individual situations.
I completely agree. That's a framework that other jurisdictions have. We have that in place for an environmental fee for planning permits particularly, but the actual process itself has not been set up in order to, because we need legal to weigh in on it and make sure that we're charging people appropriately. So for planning, that's a mechanism, but for this situation right now, that wasn't something that I felt I had the ability to create in order to keep this moving along. I didn't have enough time to create that essentially, but I would like us to go in that direction, but that would be up to the board and the department.
So what would it take in terms of timing to be able to create something? It just seems like it would be a protective measure. Do you agree?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, like laying down a deposit and then, some type of legal mechanism in order to recover the actual cost of the project. I would agree that that's really the most sustainable financial choice. But what would go into it?
Yeah. What would it delay what's happening?
Yeah, I've never done it before, but I have heard other jurisdictions doing it, like Lisa Lozier, who was employed with us before. She was really trying to push to try to get us there. It does take, extra time, but I imagine we may be able to look at other jurisdictions and see how they, use documents to formulate that process. I'm not sure how long it would take, but it's something to definitely look into if you'd like to give that direction.
To me, I think it seems wise, but
yeah,
that's my
it was a
opinion.
choice that I kind of sort of made when I was researching this, and when I got thrown into it, I don't think we could have come up with the process in time in order to allow applications to eventually come in, because people have been waiting many, many years for this situation.
I guess what spins in my head is that we're already worried about the financial situation in the cannabis division anyway. And I just would hate to see us enact something that maybe if we just slowed down a teensy bit and fixed one thing, it would cover future risk. I'm just worried about. I
would say that
want it to work.
Sorry, I apologize. I would say that this is the closest fee. This is the closest we have the division, the planning department has ever gotten to cost recovery. The fees that I'm promoting right now, but yeah, the ultimate situation would be to have cost recovery, but we just didn't have time in order to present it to you today.
That's fair. Yeah.
And we would want to probably do, I imagine, a full department evaluation, include planning in that. And it would probably take more time. I'm not sure of what yet, though.
Well, thank you very much. That's the closest I've seen to a fee study on a lot of things here. So I know you probably spent a good deal of time trying to get that as close as possible. And I'm sure that we'll, arrange that so we do get even closer to the actual spending as we go down the road. So I just want to thank you for spending your time getting that done, getting the fee study out that's comprehensive, that everybody can see, not just us, but people that are zoomed in today. And it still be a manageable amount. And I think consistent with some of the counties around us. So thank you very much. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.
I appreciate your compliment. Thank you.
All right. With that, we will open the public hearing on item 4.1.
Dr. Tammy, Douglas City, the Red Barn. I would encourage you to go ahead and pass this with the fee study that you have. Please realize that whereas you may not have it covered, I don't see why there's only going to be a couple of these places anyway. You may not have all the things covered, but in this thing you do. But
Have Adrian online.
Hey, good morning, Chair, Supervisors. Adrian Keys for a concept of the policy of that fee being a deposit, and is then tracked and then develop all the protocols and procedures necessary to implement it without stopping the program in its tracks. But that would just be a change to the retail ordinance that creates a policy that states that this is a deposit and then will be tracked. I don't know if that's a good idea. I hope I'm not saying the wrong thing, but just right offhand, that's what made sense to me as far as how that would work. And that's all. And please adopt this today. Thank you.
Veronica.
Hi, Veronica Kelly Albies, Douglas City. I want to thank Bella for an appeal or other things going on, or maybe it's just more complicated in some way. The county is able to recover those costs. And I saw that on the paperwork, and some other jurisdictions do that. But I was also wondering on the why only $700 for a 3-year license? That just seemed a little low to get a longer period. So those are just some things I noticed, and thank you.
Marie.
Hi, Marie Peterson, District 1. I just wanted to also say great job, Bella. It's really nice to see a fee study after all this time. We've been asking for so many years and never had the opportunity to see something like that. And then I did want to stress that we are all really desperate for this to go through because so many businesses are failing, people are losing mortgages. We need to have jobs stay available, not lose any more jobs than we've already lost. And I'll keep it really short. I just wanted to ask you guys to please pass this today as is. We've been waiting for years. And also, if you could ask staff to have the application released in a reasonable time period, that was supposed to be out 3 months ago and still hasn't been released. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Jeff.
Hi, Jeff Cadella, Xenia. Please approve this with no further delays. Things can always get changed down the road, but it's going to cost the county more money from revenue lost in the long run if you continue to delay this from rolling out. Let's get it done. Thanks.
No raised hands, no chat.
All right. All right, Matt, go ahead.
I just wanted to support this and say how much it would mean to the local cultivators to have a retail store. Tammy is an amazing person, and I hope you guys can pass this and get her open. Thank you, guys.
Catherine Sidman Lewiston. Totally in support. I'm really excited to see that the fees are reasonable and not extract just about perfect. There's nothing else around it. And I think that we'd want to be one of the few places in the country, much less the state, that has a doctor dispensing cannabis to the community. Tammy's work has been recognized by multiple administrations in the White House and certainly throughout California and the country. And so she's a gem, and I trust her with this responsibility. So I hope that you vote for it just as it is.
All right, with that, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
To adopt 4.1 as presented.
I would second.
I do have some discussion.
Go ahead.
Jill, I don't disagree with you on that we need to update our processes to be more flexible in charge, but that's an overall change within the system, and there needs to be precautions when you do that, not just to be giving a blank checkbook to a department. So it's going to cost you $1,000, but here's your $30,000 bill because we spent a lot of extra time. So it needs to be well thought out to protect the departments, and it needs to be well thought out to protect the citizens. And so I think that really needs to take some time and really figure that out. So, and this is, people have stated this has gone on way too long. We did hope to have this 3 or 4 years ago. And so I think it's time to move forward.
Any other discussion?
Agree.
All right.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox,
First, I have to thank Bella for her work because I didn't before, and I'm sorry. Appreciate that. Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Chairman Fraser.
Aye. All right. County matters. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board, staff, or public may request an item be heard out of order. Do I have any requests to move any items? Hearing none.
We do have somebody here from CAL FIRE. I was wondering, I assume they're here for the limited density rules. So maybe if we did that one first, so they can go out and save my house if it's on fire.
Be on fire this time of year.
You never know.
If it is, you don't want them to come, they'll send you a bill. I guess we could, if we do that, that'll possibly let Ed and Skylar off the hook also. So we can go ahead and move item 5.3 to the front, and we will start there. Building and Development Services. Item 5.3, take the following action regarding the establishment of limited density rural dwelling regulations. Find the adoption and implementation of this ordinance to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15061B3, the common sense exemption, which applies to projects where the activity will not result in a significant effect on the environment. Waive the reading and enact an ordinance amending Trinity County Code by adding Chapter 15.25 regarding limited density rural dwellings, introduced September 6, 2022, and direct staff to file a copy of this ordinance with the Department of Housing and Community Development, complete with the local findings for each local change or modification to the alternative regulations contained within the state housing law or California building standards law pertaining to limited density owner-built rural dwellings. No fiscal impact.
Chairman Frazier, this is Supervisor Brown. I'll be recusing from this item as I did the first time it was read because I have some buildings that this could apply to. Thank you.
All right, I'll text you or something when we're done. Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board, CEO Garza, County Council. This is the final step. So if there's any other discussion or anything about accepting and adopting the limited density rural development or rural dwelling regulation, we're here to answer questions or talk about it. But this is the final step.
Does anyone have any questions of Ed before I open the public comment period? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public comment on item 5.3. We don't have much public in the room.
No raised hands, no chats.
All right. That will close public comment, bring it back to the board.
I'll move to adopt.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. I do have some discussion. I noticed that some of the changes we made at the last time, when they seemed insignificant, did make a substantial difference for existing structures. And that's something that I would like to address in the future. I did talk to council, and she said that if I did that at this point, it would mean another reading. So I am supportive of passing it as it is, and then I will work on possibly bringing an amendment soon to change some of the language for existing dwellings. And that would be pertaining to where we put an actual number on the roof pitch. I wouldn't want to require someone to rebuild the roof on their house if they had a 512 pitch, and we're requiring 612. So that's just something that I'll work on in the future. Any other discussion? Seeing none.
Supervisor Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Chairman Frazier.
Aye. Are you still eavesdropping?
Let's see. He is still on.
All right, so can you hear us, Supervisor Brown? He left his computer on.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, we have finished item 5.3, and we're going to move on to item 5.1, auditor controller. Approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 21-22 for jail department 2300, increasing transfers out and decreasing fixed assets by 12,148. Approve a budget adjustment for fiscal year 21-22 for copier trust department 8802, increasing transfers in by 12,148 and fixed assets by 54. No net impact to the general fund. Increase in appropriations for copier trust by $54. Current cash balance for copier trust fund 802 is $32,067.
Good morning, Board. Christine Gaffney, Assistant Auditor Controller. I inadvertently placed this under county matters. It should have gone under consent. It's just a routine budget adjustment. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you if you do.
Anyone have any questions?
No. I thought she just wanted to talk to us.
Well, I did. I just maybe that's
All right.
us. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any public comment on item 5.1? Seeing none, we'll close public comment on item 5.1, bring it back to the board.
Move to approve as presented. Thank you very much.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, go ahead.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Chairman Frazier.
Aye. Board of Supervisors, item 5.2, discuss and or authorize Superior California Economic Development District, SCED, to move forward with pursuing a prospective avenue for fully funding proposed renovations to the county's Veterans Hall without a feasibility study, no fiscal impact. Supervisor Cox, I believe this is your item.
It is. So there is a benefactor who has expressed interest in funding the entire project. And so where we started with asking for the feasibility study, this would enable us to skip that step, but we would need board approval to do so. Taking the first step that we did when we brought this to the board the first time was necessary because another of the requirements, not a feasibility study, but this benefactor wanted to know for certain what kind of community support there would be, both cash and in lieu. Wanted to definitely see that the community was behind this with more than just, I guess, a handout, so to speak, but in it with their whole hearts. And so there were 29 letters of support received from the community, 2 of which offered upwards of $50,000 in cash and in in-kind donations. And this is exactly what was hoped for, beyond what was hoped for. Very, very positive. So now just asking if the board would also be behind this if it moved forward, again with no cost to the county. To let the benefactor know that that support, the board support, was there.
Before we open the public comment, any
I just have one
questions?
technical question. The money, it says here that 2 of which offered upwards of 50,000 in cash. Is that a total of 50,000 or each one offered 50,000?
I believe that is in total.
Okay, thank you.
And Jill, could you explain in kind to me?
Yes, for example, there is a local contractor who said that the lighting, the main lighting for the building would be donated. And so that would be considered, and the labor to go with that, that would be considered an in-kind donation rather than that individual writing a check.
All right. Any other questions before we open the public comment? Hearing none, we'll open the public comment on item 5.2. Do we have any public comment?
I have no raised hands, no chats.
All right. We will close the public comment and bring it back to the board.
Want to make the motion, Jill?
Sure, I would move that we approve item 5.2 as presented.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think this is a perfect example of what community leadership can do to move things forward and improve our community without the government forcing down the throats of people what they want. They're asking us to help them accomplish what they want, and that's what government should be.
Agreed. Anything else? All right. We call for the vote.
Supervisor Groves,
Aye.
Supervisor Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan,
Aye.
Supervisor Brown,
Aye.
Chairman Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. We're moving right along. Item 5, clerk of the board, item 5.4. Acknowledge receipt of and assign a supervisor to draft a response to grand jury report COR 2022-001 continuity committee compliance report, no fiscal impact.
Okay, excuse me, Chair. Yes, The administrative office has received the 2022 Civil Grand Jury Continuity Report, and it is county practice that the chairman of the board assign the responsibility to a fellow board member to respond. So this is a formal request for that.
And then Lydia, I just wanted to add in, the board member that is assigned today doesn't just respond. They're going to draft the response that then comes back to the full board for review and approval before we send it to the judge.
Okay.
So I did this last year along with Richard Kuntz. I think it was about the election procedures and all. Would that be the same way we would do it this year?
Yes.
Oh, it sounds like he's in good practice.
Say it again.
Well, before we begin too much discussion, any more questions for CAO Garza?
I don't know if I can form this in a question.
Well, you can wait till discussion.
Yeah, I think I'll wait for discussion.
All right, well,
make my snarky.
Okay, we'll open the public comment on item 5.4.
No raised hands, no chats.
All right. And seeing none in the room, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. And it's going to be a little difficult to have discussion on this item with a motion on the table when we need to appoint someone, unless somebody wants to, unless you guys just want me to throw a name out there. So, just for discussion's sake, I will make a motion that we appoint Keith to draft the response, and then if someone would like to second that, we can have the discussion and come up with a name.
Oh, I'd be happy to second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Have you read my previous grand jury?
No, I have not.
Yes, I of course would do anything that the board asked me to do.
That's not a very wise statement.
But I will say that this is a little shocking to me that they have questions of cannabis yet didn't ask the cannabis ad hoc personnel anything about it. So that's not much of an investigation, but I can put that in my.
And in this discussion, if anyone is really interested in doing this, now would be the time to speak and put your name into it. And we can have that discussion also.
This is Supervisor Brown. I'm very supportive of Supervisor Groves.
I was thinking about using your name since you're on Zoom and couldn't throw anything at me. So
I'm happy to be of any assistance if needed.
I would support Keith too with the cannabis issue and the ad hoc and him having more insight than myself about that. I think it'd be fine for Keith to do.
All right, well.
And then I just would have a question. Whereas last year Supervisor Gogan was able to work with the CAO, is Supervisor Groves on his own to do this, or does he have some support? How does that work?
Normally it works is that I have access to any support that I may deem necessary. So if I needed to talk to Margaret or Dan or Letty, that's all available to me.
All right. Well, we have a motion and a second and discussion. So I guess we can call for a vote.
Chairman Frazier?
I made the motion.
Yep. Sorry.
Supervisor Cox.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Chairman Frazier?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
I'll abstain.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
All right. passed. Clerk of the Board, item 5.5. Pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 8.90.170, consider Lana Craig, owner, and Tur Yang, tenant, request for exemption from code enforcement appeal fee of $1,050 for notice of violation 1262, potential loss of revenue to the general fund in the amount of $1,050.
Okay, board. So according to County Code 8.90.170, it does have it's allowable for an exemption to appeal fees. The Board of Supervisors may consider applications for exemption from any filing fees established per the preceding section in cases of undue financial hardship. So this is presented to you in that manner. So it's for your consideration.
Okay, and do we have anyone to speak on behalf of the applicant, I guess it would be?
I have a technical question first.
Go ahead.
Council, is there any precedent or legal standing where you can waive the appeal if the appellant appeals and wins, or they would have to pay if they lose?
So this has been discussed before. Currently, the way we have it written, no, you could not do that. The fee is to cover the cost of bringing in the neutral third party to hear the appeal, and there's other processing. So regardless if they win or lose, that money is expended by the county. Could we rewrite it and make it so that would be possible? Yes. But I don't know if staff would recommend that, but because again, the outlay of finances, but yes, but you can do it legally if it's written, but it's not written in this county.
Okay. And do we get to, in the past, we've had, and I didn't see it, if I missed it, I apologize, that they actually have proof of, like their W-2s or something like that. Do we have any proof that they're...
Neither one of the applicants provided any information other than what is actually included in the packet.
So as part of the process in the past, we have given you the opportunity if the individual shows up to swear them in and to actually question them regarding their finances. I don't see anyone present here for that today. We've also in the past received documentation to show their lack of income. When that's done, because it's confidential in nature, we keep it under separate cover and we would provide it to you as part of this hearing. There's nothing to provide for this applicant.
And do we get to know what the complaint is? No, we don't get to be biased by...
Historically, we have redacted any information that ties to what the actual violation was in the attempt that you're voting on whether or not they have undue financial hardship for the fee waiver piece, not be biased by what they may have been cited for.
Okay. So my last question, I hope is last. These are two separate asks, correct?
Correct. Margaret and I actually had a conversation in the office about this because I was slightly confused on how to handle it. We have two separate people asking for a fee waiver to appeal the same violation. One being the owner of the property, the other being the tenant of the property. So I haven't seen the violation itself, and I'm not overly familiar with the code enforcement process. My assumption is the tenant was cited for something and the owner is ultimately liable as well because it's their property. And Margaret's shaking her head, so I think I'm explaining that correctly. So essentially, they're both asking to appeal that violation, I think, just out of an abundance of caution.
So I guess I'm a little, I promised that was my last question, but I totally lied to you.
That's okay. This one's
So
different.
what if we said, okay, we waive one's money, but we don't waive the other one's?
That was my question to Margaret. I'm going to go ahead and let her explain that.
So if we waive one and we do not waive the other would have to submit their payment within a period of time, or their appeal would be waived. But the original one, for the one that is subject to a fee waiver, would continue on forward. They just wouldn't have standing to appear as if it's their appeal.
But there's one appeal.
No, they have
Technically,
two.
there's two.
Appeals.
Yes.
But I see one price. They're both responsible for the same price, but it's two appeals?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
But it's only one
NOV.
violation?
Correct. Yes, there's one violation. Two people have what we call joint and several liability, meaning they're both individually liable for the full amount. So if one person were to appeal it, let's say the owner were to appeal it and was to win their appeal, that would not affect the tenant's ability or requirement that they pay. They're not joined together that way. So it technically having them both appeal is appropriate. But this is definitely a first for us in terms of it happening. So we are kind of trying to give the folks the benefit of the doubt and trying to provide them the greatest opportunity to appeal and have their matter heard. So that's why we're bringing them both to you.
Wow.
Does the county have a provision where people can pay on a payment plan?
Not for appeals. For ultimate judgments, we have you taken payment plans, but not for the cost of appeal.
And that couldn't be created because it's not in our code.
It would have to be created through code, correct?
Currently, the code says that the appeal is not considered timely filed unless they've made that payment. That it's paying for the cost of that appeal moving forward is part of submitting their appeal, and they only have 10 business days to submit that appeal. So the only leniency we have there is when they request a fee waiver. We kind of pause that time frame, bring the fee waiver request to you, dependent upon the determination that you guys make. Then we either go back and let them know you waive their fee, their appeal will move forward. You didn't waive their fee and you have X amount of days to submit payment. Otherwise, your appeal is considered not timely filed.
Okay.
Any other technical questions before we open the public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public comment on item 5.5.
We have no raised hands and no new chats.
All right. I guess we will close public comment and bring it back to the board. Anyone have any idea how to make a motion?
We would ask the motions be made separately, just so we can keep a clear record.
Two separate motions.
One for each individual, correct?
Okay.
So we have to handle that, vote on that, and then make the second motion.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? I'm just wondering if this is similar to another incident on our agenda. So when someone appeals something, again, realizing that these two individuals are not here today, my question is, were they notified that this was going to be on the agenda today? It's my understanding our ordinances do not.
So it's not entirely accurate. Some of our ordinances require notification, some of them do not. So the one that you're talking about that's on the agenda later that was not notified, there is no noticing requirement in that code section. This code section does require noticing and a certified letter advising both the owner and the tenant that this was on today's agenda was sent to them.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Well, for discussion, I'll make a motion that we deny. Can I say both, or don't you said independent?
Please, yeah, if you could do them independently, because we have to send independent notices to them.
Okay. I'm just going to make one motion then that we deny Ter Yang's request for exemption.
I'll second.
So let me look at his.
And I think he is the tenant. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's correct. And within this, I will say just from historical standpoints, not that that means anything, but historically, people that have met the criteria from this board previously have brought substantial evidence, as in their tax forms, their social security check or their pension, that they actually show us a physical amount. Now, they could be lying, but they swear under oath that they're not, and that's their true income. So we have set a high bar previously. And again, that doesn't mean we can't set the bar anywhere we want. I will say that Mr. Yang's data or evidence is very slim. He doesn't talk about anything except I am not a person with money. And so we don't really have any evidence of his ability to pay or not.
All right.
I would agree with Keith. I mean, I'm sympathetic to the hardship part of things, but we just don't know. I mean, I would hope, even without paper support, that you would show up to explain your situation, maybe financially a little bit more than just saying I am a person that doesn't have money. So I agree with Keith. I think there needs to be a little bit more verification as we've asked for in the past. I just don't think this is enough.
All right. Any further?
And I will also say, I don't recall, and I'm not going to say it's an absolute, but I don't recall any time that we've granted this without the applicant actually showing up. Maybe Susie's going to.
No, I believe you're correct. I think in the past, we've actually operated on the assumption that they had to be present, but we did confirm with council before sending out notices that they do not have to be present for you to consider their requests. But yeah, I don't think you've ever granted any where they weren't physically present, or at least bare minimum submitted some substantial backup to you.
Any further discussion on the Ter Yang portion of this item? Hearing none.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Gogan?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Chairman Frazier?
Aye. Anyone care to make a motion on the Lana Craig portion?
I'll make the motion. I would move to deny this request.
Second. I'm asking for a second.
I'll second.
All right, further discussion.
Yeah, I will say at least this one gives me a little more pause. At least this person has given us numbers to deal with. There's no evidence proving those numbers. But at least she has given evidence.
Council, how would this work if the tenant was denied the waiver and the owner did I just say that backward? I've confused myself. Okay. the fee would still have to be paid for the appeal to go forward, but it would rest on the shoulders of the tenant, not the owner, correct?
No, the appeal would move forward and that the owner would have the ability to present their case and have standing to appear at the appeal. The tenant would not be able to attend as a participant, only as a witness, unless they were to pay the amount of money required within the period of time we give them after a denial.
But so whatever consequences the tenant would face, that they are facing, which we can't tell without an appeal that they are facing.
Correct. Yes.
So this is a question that would be nice to kind of understand the whole case, but
Ultimately, I think the process needs to be redone from ground up, because it is, we're trying to kind of shove a round peg into a square hole in terms of the use that this has been done. Wasn't contemplated for this type of appeal. And add that process, as we amend that process, I think clarification on who has standing to appeal and how to handle multiple individuals with standing would be a very good idea. So we will make sure that gets done.
I also think it'd be good to know how much the lease is for the acre. It looks to me like there's income here of a couple thousand a month at least. But not knowing what, I mean, who's to say this person doesn't get $5,000 a month or $500 a month? So when I was approached to lease an acre on my property, I said yes. It'd be nice to know at $1,250, I can't afford anything else, but I have no clue what they're getting for a lease. And
that's a very good point, that we don't have that evidence of what this person received.
It does appear it's a fair amount that's sustaining, looks like $1,500 plus plus food and all that. I understand it's a hardship, but maybe she should up the lease some.
So, any further discussion?
I also think it's difficult when they don't show up.
Yeah.
I don't see that we can, for me, I don't feel that I can turn the county into a benefactor for this amount of evidence and personal investment in discussion.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Aye.
Chairman Frazier?
Aye. All right.
Is there a way that we have to let them know that they have to at least show up here, that you can't just?
Return letter from one of them. And so I called the owner of the property and let her know that Tara's mail came back to me because it was to the same post office box. Let her know hers was there. I got her return slip that she received the letter, and she also informed me that she would call Tara and let him know. On the application was the same information to get a hold of them.
In addition, when we do amend this policy, I do think it's a good idea, as you would in a court hearing, to require the presence to be them present at this hearing to answer any further questions. And that will put in a provision there that if they fail to appear, they waive their right to ask for a fee waiver. But again, that's not currently in the one we have. So we're moving forward on.
Don't we have that in one of the appeals that we do?
We do have that in some of them, correct? Yeah, I believe it's all the way up to the actual appeal. If they don't attend, they don't get to move forward. But the fee waiver, as I said, is very antiquated.
What is the process to update this? Is this something that we would direct you to do, or how do we take care of it?
You could direct county council to work with the planning department, cannabis division, particularly to create a and most likely with your clerks as well to create a process and bring it back forward in an ordinance form.
If we did that, where would the cost to do that work come from? Does that come out of the cannabis department because this is cannabis related, or is this a general fund? How do we pay for the work?
Well, depends. I mean, it depends on whether it's going to be solely as a cannabis appeal, because we also are doing citations on properties that are not cannabis related, which I would assume we'd want to include. But I turn it over to our finance guru to answer that question.
The piece on this fee waiver hearing part would probably come out of the general fund and the admin and clerk of the board's budget, because it's a clerk of the board process. When they appeal, that appeal comes to our office to set it for hearing. We're the ones that collect the fee. We're the ones that have the expenses. We're the ones that pay the independent hearing officer. And it doesn't matter what they're cited for. If they're cited for cannabis, that appeal fee still runs through our office. And we don't charge cannabis for the difference. We collect that appeal fee. We pay that. The rest of it comes out of our admin general fund budget. If they're cited for a non-cannabis related violation, code enforcement violation, then that process is still going to be the same.
Mm-hmm. I didn't want to tax the cannabis department with something further after we've seen how difficult that is. And then my next question would be, is there something line item in the budget that we just adopted that would cover us to be able to undertake?
It comes out of our professional and specialized. So it's a small piece of our budget in admin that is under account 2300 that covers these appeal fees. And then we budget a small amount of revenue to come in. I don't usually budget revenue to offset it. Whenever that comes in, it's unanticipated revenue that rolls into cash carryover for the next year, because some years we get none, some years we get 10. There's just really no way for me to guess. It depends on how active code enforcement is, and it depends on how those that are cited feel about their citation and whether or not they're wanting to pay the appeal fee to appeal that.
I would like to see this board direct this process to clean this system up so we don't have this situation happen again.
Yeah. So this piece of the process pretty much funnels only through admin's office, and then we work with counsel when we have questions on the process.
If the Supervisors Cox is asking for the board as a whole to give direction, I would agree with her.
Do we have a consensus on that?
Yes.
I think so. I think we so directed. Okay. County Administrative Office, item 5.6, discuss and or provide direction to staff regarding the proposed spending of the county's American Rescue Plan funds, and authorize the county administrative officer and auditor controller to sign any necessary budget adjustments and or contracts necessary to spend ARP funds as approved, up to $1,617,939 from remaining ARP funds.
Okay, all right. So as you were presented a very lengthy staff report, I just want to give you a little review of some of the highlights that I'd like to bring to your attention. As the board may recall, on May 17th, the board approved the following expenditures. $300,000 was approved for the jail construction shortfall. $485,000 was approved. However, $468,278 was actually issued to the DSA for their retention bonuses. And going back, the initial allocation, just to go back a little bit, was $2.3 million. Okay. So in that May 17th board meeting, there were some other items that were considered for expenditures. One was a new recording system that was identified for $150,000. Fortunately, our county recorder was able to indicate that item in the 22-23 budget, so we will not be listing that as an expenditure from this source. Also, our IT department had identified $702,000 to be issued for our key network infrastructure upgrades. However, just recently, he completed a request for proposal to vendors, and we received a proposal for $264,864. And then we also identified a courthouse phone system. Hold on a second. No, excuse me. An RFP was not issued for the network infrastructure. Our IT department reduced the cost amount due to some items that he realized were recurring costs that we needed to remove. So the new amount for the IT infrastructure is $264,000. The RFP item is for the courthouse phone system. It was originally requested for $300,000, but after the RFP, it came back within a $205,000 figure. We are allowing a little cushion in that amount because that amount was provided to us about a month ago. So we want to allow for any type of increase that's issued after an RFP. So technically we have a remaining balance of $1,617,939. So since that distribution and conversation, since that board meeting, there have been discussions. I facilitated 2 department head meetings discussing this item. We received a letter from the UTEC labor union providing their recommendation on a retention structure for those members that they represent. And I do want to apologize, first of all, to all the general county staff for the delay in getting this presented to you. I know they've been anxious and wondering if we were moving on this item, and absolutely, I did want to present this to you. However, as everyone knows, we were dealing with working on the county budget and other pending items. So, board, I just want to bring this structure proposal to you. There are 3 different structures presented to you, and I'm just hoping that you will consider appropriating some funds to retain our county employees and show your appreciation to them as we did to our DSA employees. So counting the network infrastructure upgrade amount, the new amount, the $264,864, and then the courthouse phone system to $205,000. That leaves us with the remaining $1,148,075 that can be considered from you to provide for retention or other county business items. The 3 structures that I provided to you have 3 different line categories, and I wanted to explain to you what those meant. Because when I reference county employees, I wanted you to understand that these proposals are including all employees, which would not include the DSA. The second line category is all employees outside DSA, excluding the Board of Supervisors. County employees include Board of Supervisors as well as department heads and all elected officials. So the third line category is all the employees outside DSA, excluding the Board of Supervisors and department heads. The reason why I included the department heads in this line item is because I did do a poll with the department heads as far as should we include department heads or not in the retention bonuses. And at the time, at the end of the last department heads meeting, it came down to a tie. 7 said yes, include department heads, 7 said no. You did receive just recently, last night, a letter from the department some of the department heads that have indicated their support to include the department heads. So that is for your review and consideration. As far as the 3 structure options, I did include a flat amount structure that provided a certain dollar amount per employee. Again, I provided that structure because in seeing the dollar amounts that were coming out of the other 2 proposals, it was substantial. And I wasn't sure if the board really wanted to expend all of the remaining funds to this item, because as I mentioned, the ARP funds are identified for retention as well as other county business matters, infrastructure, you name it. So the second structure is per year of service structure, and that is something that was discussed at department heads meeting and their recommendation. And then the tiered structure, which is what the union requested, was a dollar amount for those employees that were hired 0 to 5 years, 4 to 6 years is 5,000, 7 years plus is 8,000. One thing I want to make sure I mentioned to the board, as we learned when we did the DSA retention bonuses, there is an estimated 22% of income tax withheld from retention bonuses. These are not PERSable. And Susie has with her the worksheet available as we discuss this. If the board would like to propose different structure amounts, different, dollar amounts, time frame.
The spreadsheet I have, I can easily on the fly throw in different numbers for the 3 different structured amounts that we have. If we're wanting to look at a completely different structure, I'm not certain that I can provide you updated estimates on the fly for that one.
Different we did include here that was different from the DSA is they included the 0 to the number of years of employment. This proposal, I am recommending that we recognize employees that have been with the county for 1 year plus. In other words, showing that they did pass their yearly probation. So that is the difference in one of the differences from the DSA.
And that's what this structure shows. It only
Yes.
includes
Right.
1 year.
So we are here to discuss, answer questions, and like to hear your thoughts.
So a definition of employee is a planning commissioner employee? Why not?
Not as far as I've calculated in these numbers. The definition of employee that I've used was full-time equivalent. So you couldn't be extra help or planning commission. You had to be a full-time equivalent employee, ran through regular payroll.
And I do have the figures, whichever amount, if there is a structure in here that you are leaning towards, to let you know the remaining balance of the 1.1 million that would be left over. As you can see from the tiered structure from the union, the amounts that it's coming out, there is not sufficient funds to support what they are proposing. So just wanted to make sure I point that out.
Any further technical questions before we open the public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll open the public comment on item 5.6. Do we have any public comment?
We have Ron Copeland.
Good afternoon, Chairman Frazier and board members. Thank you for your time today. My name is Ron Copeland. I work as a labor relations representative for United Public Employees of California. We represent 5 county bargaining groups. We appreciate the time and efforts by CAO Letty Garza and staff to prepare this matter for your review. There is one correction to the report. Our office did present the bonus structure from the general, management, and skilled trades units. A separate request was provided from the Probation Peace Officers Association that their members receive bonuses in the same manner as the other safety classifications in the DSA. In any event, whether you approve the expenditure of funds as retention bonuses or as hazard pay for essential workers, including recent or pending retirees, the expenditure is warranted and deserved by county employees for their valuable record of service before, during, and after the pandemic. Many of the employees were unable to work from home and worked on the front lines during the pandemic. All employees agree that bonuses should be based on years of service with the county. Employees had also proposed maintaining employment for 2 years for retention bonuses. Although infrastructure projects are important, employees believe that the primary focus of the funds should reflect the service provided by employees. Therefore, we reiterate our request that the board consider the structures presented by the group of 3 bargaining units and the Probation Peace Officers Association. Thank you again for your time.
Any other public comment? I saw AG with a hand up a little while ago.
They've lowered their hand.
Okay.
We have no additional raised hands and no new chats.
Right.
Good afternoon, Shannon White, Clerk Recorder Assessor, Registrar of Voters. You don't usually see me up much, but here I am twice today. I would like for you guys to show support for the much needed network infrastructure and our phone system in the county. And I believe that's really important because these are one-time monies and they should be spent on one-time expenditures. I'd also like that you support the retention bonuses for all of our staff. As Ed had commented earlier when he was doing his department head reporting, is that, it's his team that does the most of the work in his office. And without them, where would we be? Where would we be as a county as a whole? Because it's not, my office is Clerk Recorder Assessor, but at the top of my letterhead, the first thing you see is Trinity County. And that's all of us. Board of Supervisors, County Council, CEO, Treasurer, everybody. And I think retention bonuses will go a long way to show that all of our employees that, they're appreciated not only by us, department heads, but you, Board of Supervisors, Letty as the administrator. And I also feel that the department heads should be included in this because we, as the department heads, had the obligation to make sure that stuff still happened. Yeah, our staff is there every day and did a lot of work. We also did, just trying to man all of that and making sure they were, that all of the functions of the office still happen. Even the elected officials that are in your county right now, we all reran, right? We could have taken off, hightailed it somewhere else, but we did because we care about this county. We care about the services that are provided. So again, I'd like to thank you for supporting and hope that you guys approve the infrastructure, the phone system, retention bonuses for all staff at $500 a year. Thank you.
We still have no raised hands and no new chats. Now we have a raised hand. Angie? I like to throw it up there as soon as I say we have none.
Good afternoon, Board. Angie Bickle, Auditor Controller. I am totally in support of the infrastructure and the phone system because, as you know, one-time monies don't come around very often and we don't have the funding available normally to be able to afford these. But I also think that the board needs to take a look and approve the retention bonuses for all employees, including department heads and the Board of Supervisors. The reason I say that is that even though the amount that was presented and requested is not close to what the DSA unit received, it will still help boost morale and show that the board appreciates the diversity of work that is performed by all employees, department head, and board of supervisors. Department heads and board of supervisors should be included, as not only are we employees of the county, with the short staffing levels in all departments, department heads are down in the weeds working side by side with staff to complete required obligations. I hope that you look at all employees as a benefit to the county and to boost the morale that staff is currently lacking, and especially lacking after the sheriff's department received bonuses. Thank you.
Hi, Terry McBrayer, Treasurer Tax Collector. I could reiterate everything that they're saying, but I just want to make a point that thank yous and appreciation goes a long way. And as department heads, we do as much as we can to let them know that they're appreciated. But we all realize when we are in Trinity County that we're not going to be on the top of the wage chain as far as how much that's going to be, but it makes a difference. So it's just a little something, but it makes a difference.
All right, seeing no more public comment.
And we have no raised hands and no new chats.
All right, we will close public comment and bring it back to the board.
I have one more technical question, probably Margaret, but maybe Letty. So very rare that there's monies that we can gift to employees. What in this act allows us to gift monies away?
I want to be very clear. This is not a gift of money to any employees. This is compensation for work above and beyond what they have done before, and also compensation to reward them for staying with the county during a tough time, which is why we call it a retention bonus as opposed to a gift. So I want to be very clear because it does make a difference in terms of how it's going to be analyzed through the PERS process and whether it's legal or not. We will be making findings as to why, if the board is pleasure to move forward on it, we'll be making findings as to what the public benefit is in order to have this not be a gift of public funds. And with that, it would not be.
Okay, but that is in the ARP funding that this is, I just want to be clear that this is allowable use to pay retention bonuses or.
I can read.
It is an initial fund is specific. It is an initial fund, a specific spot.
Is my speaker on page 5 of the U.S. Treasury's final rule? There is a small paragraph that reads, further, the final rule allows for a broader set of uses to restore and support government employment, including hiring above a recipient's pre-pandemic baseline, providing funds to employees that experience pay cuts or furloughs, avoiding layoffs, and providing retention incentives. So it's really more of a retention incentive, not a bonus.
And with that, I mean, these are COVID relief funds, correct? This was all to do with the pandemic.
Yes, it's the American Rescue Plan.
So I guess the question that I would have is when we look at paying per employee versus paying per year of service, I have a hard time understanding in my head how any employee was more or less important or worked harder or less during the pandemic. Everybody went through that time equally.
I disagree with that, Jill.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. I mean, happy to hear what you have to say.
I think there are definitely certain departments that took more of a public lashing, such as the health department. And I mean, I don't need to get into the COVID thing, but I guess I'm ready to make a motion, but the years of service, I think that's a great way to reflect a tiered rate of dedication. It's straightforward.
Thank you, Jeremy, for mentioning the health department, because I did want to let the board know that we did have we currently just have 2 nurses on staff that worked very hard and diligently during the pandemic. So I do want to acknowledge that. Thank you. As well, and not to discredit any other employees, but being on that front line during that, it was pretty intense, I'm sure.
And Jill, if you wouldn't mind, sorry, Supervisor Cox, if you wouldn't mind just kind of providing my legal analysis of your question, because I think it's a very good question. Is, we have to make a determination of how these are being distributed that is consistent with what the intent of the act is. The concept is that employees that have been with the county longer are more attractive and have more options to go to other locations as well. And so to reward them for their experience and their history with staying with the county is a justifiable reason from a legal perspective.
That helps. Thank you.
So could I just answer back on that, just my thinking on that? First of all, if you're an elected employee, I don't think you have anywhere to go. I mean, if I wasn't, say I was included in here, I don't know why we're not, but that's that. And I didn't get this money, whether it was $500 or $2,500. Liam can't go anywhere. I'm an elected employee. I have to be here. And to go somewhere else, you have to be elected there, I think.
I think you can quit. You just can't get.
I could quit, but it just seems that if you're an elected employee and you were going to go somewhere else and be elected employee, this wouldn't be a huge thing to hold back, taking away from some of the other employees. So
I think we're kind of getting into discussion there, though. Do you have a question?
No, I don't have a question.
All right. Well, let's get a motion, then we can have all this discussion we want.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the per year of service for all employees outside of the DSA, excluding the Board of Supervisors, and also to adopt the recommendations for the courthouse and networking system.
All right, we have a motion. Would anyone care to second that motion? Or does anyone have any other motion that they would like to make?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the flat amount structure of $2,250 per employee to all employees outside DSA, excluding the board and department heads.
We have a second for that motion. Does anyone else care to try?
I'll second Jeremy's for discussion.
Okay. So,
One moment, can Jeremy make it again? Because it's not currently pending.
I would love to make it again. I'll make a motion to approve the per year of service structure at $500 per year of service for all employees outside of DSA, excluding Board of Supervisors, as well as to approve the recommendations for funding of the network infrastructure upgrades and the courthouse phone system cabling.
Keith.
Yeah, I'll second that for discussion.
Okay.
Can I ask one clarification question? Supervisor Brown and Supervisor Groves, does your motion and second include the authorization of the CAO and the auditor to sign any necessary budget adjustments and or contracts to support the fundings that you're approving in your motion?
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
So the only problem I have is you either have elected officials or you don't have elected officials. And so to exclude some elected officials, and I know this is always puts us in this awkward point where we shouldn't be, supervisors shouldn't be discussing their own incomes. And we have some of a plan moving forward, but we don't take it and haven't brought this. But to me, if you have a category of employees, if you're saying, okay, all public officials that have been elected, you're out, then fair enough. But just it would be no difference than we say everybody but the treasurer and auditor. So anyway, that's my point on that.
So sounds like, Susie, if we had a structure with outside DSA, with department heads excluding board of members, because again, with the department heads, it's combined, you're right. We have elected and we have department heads.
So
So we need one with department heads.
what is your suggestion?
we do
to
have
fix
that.
Your issue.
We have everybody that is an employee. We have that tier that includes the board members and the department heads. We have one calculation that excludes the board members only. And then we have a third calculation that excludes the board members and all department heads. We don't have one that breaks our department heads into appointed and electeds though.
Or just elected officials.
And if I may, can I speak when I get a chance?
Go ahead.
My reasoning behind excluding the board is that we're defined as part-time jobs. And I don't feel like the other elected positions come with that definition. And you might disagree that it's a part-time job. I know I think about it, constantly. But that's how it's defined in the county bylaws or whatever. And that's my reasoning.
Are we defined as part-time?
We're not paid as part-time. We're paid an hourly basis on 40
170.
hours a week.
Different category. Just giving you the legal perspective.
What is the category?
Elected official.
Uh-huh.
Different than an elected official. Well, actually, no. Same as all elected officials. So you would not, for example, when I get the questions about whether the Board of Supervisors has to comply with certain policies that apply to all employees, the answer is no, because you're not technically an employee. So I just wanted to clarify. I think there's semantics to a certain extent, but I just want to make it clear that how we phrase it.
So in that classification, are we put in with elected officials / board of supervisors?
Correct.
So if this was to move forward with, I guess, another classification here, we would have to think about that. Because right now we are moving forward with elected officials, unelected officials, but we are elected officials. But in some way, you would want to exclude just 5 elected officials, which is kind of like saying, hey, everybody but, well, the board, which is odd to me. I'm not saying this about the $2,200, but it's just an odd situation where you kind of go, boy, everybody worked hard. They should get something, whether it's $500, $2,500, but you guys.
Well, it's,
I agree that it's tough to talk. I'm sorry, did I step over the top?
it basically just comes down to, it's really difficult for the Board of Supervisors to say, yeah, we're going to pay ourselves a retention
No, I
bonus.
understand that. I fully
not right.
understand that.
If I may, the law contemplates the awkwardness that this puts you in. And that is why all increases or all compensation to elected officials is subject to referendum, meaning if the public doesn't like it, they can come back and fight it. But again, so I just want to make it clear, the reason you're able to vote on this is because it has been contemplated in legislation that you have to vote on it. So it gives the people an ability to check and balance.
So I would just like to say, if we do vote on this, we would be included in the department heads, elected officials.
Well,
So is that
the motion that's on the table right now is that the Board of Supervisors would be the only ones excluded. All department heads, elected or appointed, will be paid the retention bonus. That's the motion that's on the table.
So
I'd also like to add, apologies.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I think in 2023, there is a scheduled pay raise for Board of Supervisors that is attached to the county attorney general or the
judges.
Yes, the judges pay scale not to exceed 3%.
That is correct. 2023, you are attached to the judge's pay scale not to exceed 3%. The Board of Supervisors only.
So I just want to make a philosophical statement. Sorry.
Right.
And it's, I think, in agreement with what Supervisor Gogan was kind of leaning toward. I feel like elected officials are different from the standpoint that this is a service job. when you run for an office, it's a job and you get paid for it, which you need to get paid for it because you're spending all your time doing it. But you're agreeing to serve the public. And so I have no problem. I don't need money from this. I'm happy to exclude the Board of Supervisors. But I do see the link, and it's not to say that I don't appreciate work that it's being done. I see this philosophically as when you run and you are elected by the people, you are saying, I want to serve you. And that comes with good times and it comes with hard times. And so I kind of see that. And again, I'm happy to just be the team player and do what the board feels. And I don't mean that to sound like that there are those that I appreciate what everyone does. I just think that there's also kind of this extra layer that's just how I see elected officials.
Yeah, and I guess I would speak for the whole board here as we see all the department heads and their staff, and we appreciate everybody. I mean, everybody works hard. We see them all. I don't know anybody that doesn't work hard, whether it's staff, department head, board. So I don't mean to separate anybody in degree of skill, work, years. Everybody, especially through COVID, worked really hard. Some departments more than others, but something else will come up and they'll work harder than others. So I just want to say, and I think speaking for all, we appreciate the hard work that everybody does. That would be my comment.
I'd like to add, I feel like the other elected positions in the county actually require certification, skill sets, years of experience. I was only elected because I was a business owner in the community and a cannabis advocate. To have these other elected positions, and you can't just necessarily get it by popular support. You have to have qualifications, in my opinion.
I'm not sure that's true, but it is for the sheriff, but I'm not sure if it's true for everyone.
Well,
to me, you're either you exclude electeds or you don't exclude electeds.
Mm-hmm.
do you care to make that into a motion?
Did judges get a retention balance
Bonus?
through the state?
I do not believe that the state used their ARPA funding for a retention bonus.
Would they use it?
I am not sure what they got, actually. I'm not sure they were even included, so I can't answer that. I don't think they were included as part of the process.
The state got any ARPA funds, it was only as a pass-through to some of the smaller jurisdictions that didn't get their payments directly from the federal government.
Keith? You have a motion to correct your...
Is that, Keith, Liam's going to make a motion?
Somewhere there. So
No, I was just, well,
I thought you were going to make a motion. I'm sorry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. You were going down that road. I thought you had it.
All right, so I'll make a motion that it goes to all county employees, the 5-year bonus as Jeremy's, everything else is.
Everything with Jeremy except for everybody?
Everybody.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone care to second that?
Keith, you said the $500 per year.
500 per year.
Okay.
Okay, as in.
Okay, you're
No, I just
second.
wanted to just understand that. No, not okay, as in I'm voting okay. Just make sure I understood that correctly.
All right.
I'm going to second that for discussion. Just don't want it to die.
All right. So.
And for clarification, that's all full-time appointed and elected officials.
Yes, all.
And
full-time,
employees and elected officials.
all FTEs.
Okay, can I make a third motion?
You already have a motion.
I know.
He can make a third one. This will be the last one. So
Okay,
You're gonna fill up the board.
I am. We'll have some fun here.
All right.
Okay, I make a motion that all employees except elected officials get the retention bonus.
A second. So the same as your previous motion with all the other stuff included, except for we're just excluding elected officials.
Yep.
And we don't have any way to get numbers on that today. That'd be, but a further discussion on that one, I think we've discussed. So I guess we're testing out our new board clerk to see if she can keep track of 3 motions at a time.
okay.
You sure? Okay, so we're voting on Supervisor Groves' last motion he just made, which was to approve the $500 per year of service per employee for all employees except elected officials, fund the courthouse phone system, the infrastructure upgrades as recommended in the staff report.
Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, number of cases 1, opioid litigation, case number 117 MD 2804, and item 6.2, Government Code Section 54954.5C, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, number of cases 1. Do we have any public comment on closed session items?
No raised hands, no chats.
All right. We are adjourned to closed session.